Yo, what is up, guys? I hope that you can hear me. You definitely can see me. Well, it's been a while. My microphone is a little dusty, even a little, there's some dust in it. I haven't used it in a while. And, I obviously apologize for it. It's obviously not something that I would want. However, life is complicated, especially the life of a small creator. So yeah, it's just tough. I'm sorry, guys. There's no excuse. All right, I'm a terrible YouTuber. I know. I really, really know. But how's it going, Thomas? Good to see you, my man. I think you weren't in the last stream. No, I think you were. But it's going pretty good, actually. It's life is good. Outside my YouTube. How could you say it? I can't call it YouTube adventures because there's a lack of adventures. I think that's the word. But I miss you. I've missed you guys. I miss watching Krauts videos. I have restrained myself from watching those videos, and he's just been releasing content like crazy. I mean, I'm absolutely baffled by the amount of videos this man has released in a couple of weeks. So it's pretty interesting. I love it. Okay, let's set the volume. Let's set it through here. It's okay if you can't make videos or stream, but it wouldn't be cool if you could make a post notifying us that you're going to be off for a bit. Oh, yeah, you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. This is a community, we're all together. I should notify you. That's totally, you're totally correct. I feel sometimes a little bit new to this, although I've been doing videos for a while. But however, streaming, I think it's my favorite thing, I love streaming, and I think people like the streams too. So I definitely think that's good. I have a laptop now also to help me doing the streams, which is also pretty nice, I have to say. All right. So, Kraut, right? Kraut has been a busy man. You're totally correct. And he's been uploading like absolutely crazy. Let's see, Kraut. There we go. 3 videos, 1 long, 2 short, quote unquote short. The ideology of Putin's Russia, I think this one is going to be good. I think this one is going to be really, really interesting. He made 4 videos while you were gone, man. 4? Oh, yeah, you're right. This one I did watch it. I mean, let's watch it. A lot of things or stuff has been going on in the world. And wait a minute. There we go. Always enjoy your streams. They are good fun. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate my man. So 4 videos a month ago, 2 weeks ago, 9 days ago, 5 days ago. Wow, 5 days and 9 days. That's insane. He's working his ass off. My God. The world is crazy. I know. I mean, I know people always say that the world is crazy, but I feel like right now the world is actually pretty fucking crazy, a lot of stuff going on in Iran, in Russia. I don't know why Argentina is on this thumbnail, but I don't know. I mean, Argentina is always pretty fucked up. The limits of geographic determinism. This is gonna be interesting. I saw the Russia's videos got some criticism. All right, I like that. I like when there's criticism, different opinions, right? So that's going to be pretty dope. So let's start with the one from Iran. So this is a message from Iran. Hashtag, I'm sorry, I'm going to be terrible pronouncing this name, but hashtag Mashamini. I have no idea, but of course, we've seen many women protesting in Iran. I saw a photo of the subway in Iran, and women just removing their, I don't know if it's the hijab or the burqa or something in between, but women are definitely removing their veils to protest in Iran. Women are doing all sorts of online protesting, which I think it's great. Of course, Iran, one of the most tyrannical governments we've seen in a while. And talk about not only a tyrannical government, but an Islamic tyrannical government, which of course is very hard for women. We've seen this in Afghanistan with the Taliban getting back power, and now in Iran, which has always been very rough on women. But I think now, especially with the death of that woman, which I guess that's her name, but I'm not entirely sure, so I'm not going to say it. Did I miss anything? No, brother, you just arrived. Brazil, also, you're right. Brazil had an election. Lula da Silva went from prisoner to president in a few years. That's crazy. I wasn't a fan of Jair Bolsonaro, so I guess I'm happy to see Lula and see how he does. Of course, there's a lot of corruption scandals surrounding Lula, and of course, his predecessor, Dilma Rousseff, who was like, I think she was like ousted, right, of power. Or impeached. I think she was impeached and removed from office. Of course, a lot of controversy surrounding Lula, but I think in the past he did well for Brazil, so I guess we'll have to see. He sort of reminds me of the Bernie Sanders of Brazil. What do you think about what's going on in Korea? I'm not entirely sure what you mean. North Korea. The North Korean missiles were missile near Japan. Is that the one incident? I don't know. It's just hard to keep up sometimes. It's really fucked up. You know, it's hard to keep up. And people getting crushed in Seoul. I know, right? That Halloween event that left like 140 people crushed, like literally crushed. That's scary though. I don't like big crowds of people. I'm not a huge people's person. So just the thought of being crushed by a fucking crowd, it's terrifying. It literally gives me chill. Then the bridge in India, I haven't read about that one, honestly, my man. So North Korea, we've got Iran, we've got, of course, Russia, Ukraine. And there's also, we've in the United Kingdom, Liz Truss has been removed. We have a new prime minister in the UK. Well, not we, the British, right? They have a new prime minister, so that's crazy. Yeah, here in the UK, the past few months have been mad. It's like musical chairs with prime ministers, third PM in 1 year. I know, right? You had Boris Johnson serving this first half of the year. Liz Truss serving for 40 days? I mean, 3 weeks? It's absolutely insane, dude. And now we have a new prime minister, the first person of color who is a prime minister in the United Kingdom. I don't know what's his name. Let's start the stream by Googling his name. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, so person of color, from Indian descent. Oh, there was a bridge in India, 150 people died during the reopening of a bridge dam. And a reopening, that's gotta be fucking absurd. I mean, I don't know. The Rush strikes back. India reverse colonized the UK. Rishi Sunak, the Mexican is back. Bonjour, mon ami. Damn. It's been insane. And Thomas, I don't know if you know, how's the economy doing in the United Kingdom? Because I've heard it's pretty crazy. I think the pound, went equal to the dollar, which is something that I've never experienced, at least not that I can remember. The pound has always been above the US dollar. But as of right now, I think it's not doing so well. China is also not doing so well. Yeah, 1 pound, $1.3, 1.13. That's fucked up. Let's see, 1 year, and you can see the huge downfall of the British pound. It went from 1.35 on this time last year to 1.08, and I guess now it's recovering a little bit, but I don't know. It's staying pretty similar to the dollar. One former Chinese leader got arrested or something. Yeah. There's also a lot of stuff with China right now. They have a zero COVID policy, so they're doing a lot of lockdowns, and that could be pretty bad for the global economy since everything is made in China. It's pretty bad. Wow. We are truly fucked. This is a terrible time to be alive. Oh, man. They raised the oil price, even though we have plenty of oil in storage. I know, right? That sounds pretty fucked up, especially the United Kingdom, right? British Petroleum being one of the biggest oil companies in the world. Sounds insane that they are raising prices when they have so much oil and one of the biggest, largest oil companies in the world. Of course, BP does business all over the world. There's British Petroleum in Mexico. We have BP gas stations. So, they do business all over the world. But the UK has produced oil for quite some time now. We live in a clown world. That's true, man. Literally, what a funny time to be alive, It's just crazy. Fucking insane. Sorry if this is off topic, but I have a question to European viewers. Oh, nice. I saw what about this? The world's going to hunger and Europe's is at small risk. Is that true? We live in a society. I know. The chat's not showing on stream. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. No, you're totally right. Shit. All right. Shit. Oh, fuck. My dad paid like 80 pounds the other day. That one, wow, 80 pounds? Holy crap, brother, that's insane. Now let's pop out the chat. Let's copy this. 80 pounds, wow, Jesus Christ. That's a fucking lot. There we go. Chat should be showing up any minute. I have the chat on my laptop, so I don't think Europe is that much in danger, to be honest. I agree. I don't think they're like in danger. Depend on the country, I guess. We are good in France, I think. I hope. I personally don't think Europe is going to suffer that bad. I think what worries me the most is the energy situation. I think European viewers should be more worried about energy than hunger. Literally, come on, Europe's not going to go hungry. Maybe probably food prices are definitely going to increase, but that doesn't mean I think they'll starve. Although maybe we can watch the What About This video. I saw the thumbnail, but I didn't watch it. So I don't know. If you guys are ready, we can start. Let's start with this video on the Iran situation, I guess. European countries getting tired of supporting Ukraine might be a problem. Yeah, that's going to be a huge problem. I think that's what Russia wants. They want the European people to be tired of the European countries supporting Ukraine, supporting the war because of the sanctions. So if Europe can survive this winter, survive in terms of political turmoil, I think they're going to be fine. But if they don't, Russia is really going to steam through Ukraine, and I think that's terrible. It's mostly just import and export problems with food and energy, he said, somewhat. I think energy, I think it's the big one. And hopefully, you said it, Thomas, 80 pounds. I think that's quite a lot. All right, let's watch the video, dude. In loving memory of Masha Amini. Okay, are you guys listening?
Hello. This video may be narrated by the YouTuber that you know as Kraut, but the script is not written by Kraut. This is written by Lonely Glitch and a group of Iranians. You may have seen me or heard of me if you took part in some of the Q&As or streams or are active in the Discord server. I am an Iranian friend of Kraut.
Sorry, I don't know him.
Use his platform to bring you a message. I would like to ask you for a moment of your time because I have something important to tell you. As you may have heard, there are ongoing nationwide protests in Iran. What sparked these protests was the murder of a 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian woman.
Jesus, 22 years old.
Amini, also known as Sina. On the 16th of September 2022, the Islamic Republic's so-called morality police murdered Mahsa by beating her into a coma for improperly wearing her hijab. Mahsa was
improperly wearing. It's not like she wasn't wearing it, from what I'm understanding. She was wearing it wrong, and she got beaten to death. I mean, that's just so fucked up in so many ways. We live in Western countries. We know what freedom of religion is, right? We could practice any religion we would want, and for most of us, there's no such thing as a police, a religious police, morality police. How moral can you be by by just beating someone to death. Holy shit.
The capital city.
Or improperly
Tehran, to
wearing
see
a
her friends
hijab?
and family. That was
Wow.
when a morality
Oh, God.
patrol van kidnapped her. According to other detainees inside the police van, officers repeatedly
Yeah, it's messed up.
beat her
I know,
head
brother.
to the side of the van.
Such a
Based on
hard
CAT
thing
scan
to
images
watch.
confirmed by regime news outlets, she had extreme levels of damage done to her brain tissue, which ultimately took her life and shocked our country. This is our everyday story as Iranians, ever since the existence of the Islamic Republic. 44 years of an Islamo-fascist regime that uses its citizens as mere disposable assets in its dystopian ideological delusion. And it has devastated our country. My country used to be a beautiful one, where there was hope, music, dance, history, and culture.
Yeah, this is one of those videos. For example, they also do a lot of that with Afghanistan, how before the modern situation, before the Taliban, before the war against the US, Afghanistan was like a pretty chill place, you know? But now with the Taliban, it's like a fucking shithole. And Iran, I guess, is the same. And Iran historically has been really important. You know, Persia has been historically a really important. A lot of important empires have controlled what we now know as Iran for a long time. It's really been an important region in the world, and it's so sad to see, you know, a country with such potential to just be wasted.
Now, all we do
There's plenty of Iranians in the UK who fled Iran in the 80s. They are well integrated now. We have many protesting and advocating for the Iranian monarchy to return to Iran.
The guardianship of the cleric ideology.
Oh, the
human
witch
rights
hunts, yeah,
have
true.
virtually non-existent for the past decades. Corruption, mismanagement, and embezzlement by regime officials, and the absurd amounts of money they spend on funding militias like Hamas, Hezbollah, and
Yeah.
Houthis.
So fucking stupid, dude.
Meanwhile, the regime continues its
Wow.
oppression of women, intellectuals, religious and sexual minorities,
Intellectuals.
and whoever else they deem as unwanted.
I mean, you know, a country is bad or is going to be bad where the intellectuals are the ones that are, you know, like persecuted. It's just, I don't know, man. Mexico is far from a perfect country, but at least this stuff like doesn't happen, you know? Like, I do appreciate that.
Citizens as early as the first grade to create a society subservient to their ideology.
Yeah.
But they failed. Ever since its existence, we
Good.
rejected the propaganda and kept growing as a society.
But it's a good thing that Iranians are really waking up to this, and especially women. The fact that women are protesting all of this crap, I think it's pretty good. You know, I think it's amazing.
From the regime. We fought the propaganda and managed to use the internet as our last bastion of freedom to spread awareness.
Yes.
This has not been pleasant to the clerics, as you might have guessed. And now we've had enough, and we are ready for change. Although Iran has never experienced true democracy, the fight for the rule of the people has been an over-century-old struggle for our nation. We have not stayed quiet against the regime's oppressions throughout these years. You may have not heard much about our struggle.
I believe that,
and how
yeah.
the regime shut down the internet and murdered over 1,500 people in 3 days and in cold blood during the November 2019 protests. We are a society that despises the backward and inhumane laws that its regime enforces on it.
I believe that. I mean, it's like, again, like Saudi Arabia, like people living in Saudi Arabia, I don't think they like the rules, you know, people in Saudi Arabia or Iran, or just people like us. They like the internet. They love to watch shows. They love to play sports. They like going out. Like, it's just regular people, but living inside a brutal, corrupt regime. So I don't know, man. It's heartbreaking. I truly sympathize with them. Because I put myself in their shoes. It must suck, dude.
We are tired of living.
There were also rumors that Iran was gonna attack Saudi Arabia. Oh my God, there were rumors that Iran was gonna attack Saudi Arabia. Jesus Christ, man. I mean, another war? That'd just be like, another war, you know? I wonder what causes religions to go through cycles of extremism and tolerance. That's a good question, though. That's a really good question.
And no hope.
Honestly, I have no idea what could be.
Ever since the death of Masa, every fragment of our
It's Masa, not Mashi. Masha,
we enter
okay.
the second week of nationwide protests and strikes. The regime is using its anti-riot, Iranian Revolutionary Guard, police, plainclothes, secret police, and Basij militias to crack down on protests.
Yep.
They shoot us in the streets, trying to protect a regime that is no longer legitimate to the eyes of the people. As we are leading the protests by expressing who we are, chanting women.
And this was a month ago. Do you guys have any updates? Has something happened with Iran? I have no idea, but I don't think anything big has happened in Iran. Or has it? Maybe you guys know.
Freedom. They have cut off access to the internet in an attempt to silence us. But the world has seen who we are this time. The world has seen the bravery of our women, burning their hijabs and cutting their hair as a sign of protest against the system
a powerful
that has
statement,
desperately
dude.
tried to subdue them for all these years but has failed to do so. This isn't merely about morality police, as some might frame it to be. Men, women and children are risking their lives standing against security forces who have no problem shooting them as they chant, "We will fight, we will die, we will take back Iran." What we do is about freedom and justice. It's about our hopes in shaping our future. And it's about taking our country back. And like any revolution, we may succeed or we may fail. But our fight and our struggle continues. And this is where you come in. Now you may be thinking, what can I do? I don't personally live in a country with an accountable political system. I have never had the chance to be represented by anyone in the government. But you do. As we continue our lives in pain, children and relatives.
Daughter of conservative Iranian politician Gholam Ali Haddad. In Iran, and she's wearing a hijab, right? Very conservative clothing. But abroad, outside Iran, and she's wearing, which I don't think it's bad for her to wear any clothes she wants. But it's very hypocritical, right? Her father, a conservative politician, is like, dress whatever you want when you're outside the country. That's insane. Come on, bro. A girl got assaulted by an Iranian policeman. When the men of the town protested outside the police station, the local army units and police opened fire on them. Jesus Christ, this happened recently? They opened fire on a crowd? Isn't that it's Iran, so... Wow. Holy fuck.
Of the regime's officials, alongside propagandists and lobbyists.
Okay. Son of the Iranian chief Islamic Justice partying in London. And look at my guy. He's trying to dance and stuff, Okay, follow this account. It exposes the hypocrisy of Iranian regime goons and propagandists who live in lives of luxury, alcohol, partying, and prostitutes in Western countries. They condemn it at home. Holy fuck. His dance goes hard, though. Yeah, when someone goes to the club and starts throwing those moves...
Officials, alongside propagandists and lobbyists.
If I saw that guy dancing like that, I was like, yo, take my girl. This guy is gonna absolutely take my girl. His dances are so smooth.
Live freely in your democratic country. They live.
The fuck? That was funny though. I don't want to ruin the moment, but that was pretty funny. Yo, Turkuv, my man, how are you doing? I'm so happy to see you, everyone. Yeah, I know, right? Same, absolutely same. I think it's so sad that the Middle East ended up like this. Recall the 2001 Taliban demolition of the 1,500-year-old Bamiyan Buddha statues. I don't remember that, but it's definitely important. Afghanistan used to be Buddhist due to the Silk Road. Wow, that's an interesting fact, though.
Corruption and embezzlement. They live their
I want to check that.
Same way that people in Iran get prosecuted.
Should we check? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, dude. Okay, rich kids of Tehran. 87,000 followers. Jeez. terrifying X-ray CT scan image from the school of a female protester in this city who was shot with metal pellet bullets. Jesus. That's painfully horrible. Can we see some rich kids? I guess this account is now posting a lot of protests and... There we go. Can we translate this? I don't think we can translate it. Jesus. But I guess like politicians and stuff. Wow. People are just like shooting, dude. Wow, well, you were right. I guess the Iranian government literally does not give a fuck about shooting crowds in the middle of the streets. And I say crowds as of like people, not crowd like crowd, you know. This is the biggest protest to date. Past protests have only had some groups. These protests is bringing everyone together, all groups, even moderate conservatives are siding with them. Jesus. Wow.
For doing so. These people are an elite and oligarchy class that lobby and spread propaganda and misinformation while undermining Iranians abroad who try to bring light to these crimes. They live in Canada, the United States, Germany, the Netherlands, United Kingdom,
the
France,
developed countries,
of
right?
other Western countries.
The West.
I humbly ask you, as a citizen of a democracy, to write your representatives in Parliament and ask them to investigate the regime's echo chambers and its corrupt cronies abroad, who we call the Agassides. Ask them to sanction regime officials who murder people in Iran. You might be surprised to know that key people running Iran's morality police or security forces are not even sanctioned in many of the countries you live in and can freely travel there.
I mean, it's like Russia, right? The West, the USA, Canada, the European Union, most of them, they have sanctioned the Russian elites. So they are not sanctioning yet the Iranian elites, and I wonder if they, or the countries, have done anything.
Particularly if you live in Canada. You can join the Association of Families of Flight PS-752 victims in their struggle for justice and holding
Higher-ups in the Iranian police had to go to the lower ranks and tell them God is on their side. Wow.
For shooting down a civilian plane that
this becomes some police and troops are siding with the protesters.
Including a lot of Iranian
yeah, hell yeah.
flight crew. You can check their website at
I genuinely feel blessed to live in a democratic country. I know, right? Amen.
www.ps752justice.com. And one last thing. The regime is actively trying to silence us. Our campaign and protests continue.
I imagine that.
I myself have had an extremely difficult time connecting to the internet and getting past the abysmal level of censorship. We may experience another nationwide internet blackout like
God.
in 2019.
Jesus, that has to be horrible.
To the rest of the world any moment now. And when the regime cuts the internet, the regime kills. They bank on the world looking the other way to commit atrocities in the dark. Spread the word. Every tweet, every video, every discussion, and every
Masa Amini, Iran protest, Iran revolution, hashtag Iran.
What we've been through and what we are fighting for. Just recently, the hashtag Masa Amini has broken the record as one of the most used hashtags on Twitter.
Wow.
With its Persian variant being repeated over 90 million times in a week.
90 million times?
Be a part of our family. Use your platforms and speak up. Don't let her name be forgotten. As our great Persian poet Nizami Ganjavi once said, there's much hope in despair. The end of the dark night is bright.
Wow.
I look forward to talking to you.
Nice. There's much hope in despair. The end of a dark night. I like that.
The 1918 Nobel...
No, thank you. So, holy fucking shit. That was a rough video. Rough in the sense that just some facts, but cruel facts, you know. The people of Iran are suffering. The women of Iran are suffering. And that's not nice. That's not good to see. I got a video for the next one. Of course, bro, recommended. Even if this protest was to fail, I don't think it'd be forgotten. It's too big. Yeah, you're right. It's too big. It has gone global. People are not going to forget it. It reminds me a lot of the Arab Spring protests that were also pretty big and went international. But I don't know. I hope that... I mean, do you guys really see the government or the regime of Iran really is going to be gone by this protests? I don't know. I'm having a maybe. But it's a regime that has existed for decades. It's kind of like North Korean people protesting Kim Jong-un, you know? It's going to be like, well, he might not be gone. Oh, wow. Well, that first one was pretty tough, but we survived. Let's watch The Myth of Racial Political Development. Okay. Does the origin of the Hungarian interest you? Sure. Absolutely, man. That's actually a pretty interesting story considering like their very early history or their early history. Let's watch this one. Okay, this one, I have no clue, absolutely no clue what it's gonna be like. History never repeats itself, but it does often rhyme. This video is good. All right. Oh shit, I'm excited. I like it when you guys say that the video is good.
This video is sponsored by Morning Brew. I prefer cold brew coffee to start into my morning, but just like everyone else, I also start into my morning by reading up on the news. And Morning Brew is the ideal newsletter for this. Instead of browsing through various different news sites, Morning Brew arrives in your inbox every morning with easily digestible updates of all the world's business, tech, and finance news and all the headlines. With links to
Origins of the Hungarians by Fortress of Love.
Minutes. And best of all, it's all free.
Alright.
I've been using Morning
We'll
Brew
check it
for a
out for
few
sure,
months
brother.
And really like it. An article that recently caught my interest is how the once much promoted adoption of Bitcoin as a legal tender in El Salvador turned out to be a monumental flop and may still cause
Bitcoin, crypto itself, and of course NFTs have flopped. Nobody cares about that anymore. That was like so 2019, 2020, maybe even 2021. But yeah, El Salvador made a huge mistake buying all of those Bitcoins. And especially that El Salvador is a poor country. But anyway, that's not the topic of the video. Let's not get lost on those.
Don't forget to sign up at morningbrewdaily.com/kraut or use the link in the description below.
This seems like a nice business, you know, like a nice idea.
And now, let's get into it.
Finally. This is going to be good.
And follow the 38th parallel.
Crap, I'm late. No, you're not that late, bro. You're actually fairly early.
The Korean Peninsula into two separate spheres. This border is a legacy of the Cold War. After the end of the Second World War, the former Japanese colony was divided up into administrative zones between the Soviet Union and the United States. Both created regimes allied to them in a brewing conflict between the two global powers. In 1950, the North invaded the South, beginning a brutal 3-year war that after several back and forths, in the end...
So this is supposed to be the border. What is it, the 95 parallel, something like this? This is supposed to be the border. But as you can see, there's some North Korea inside South Korea, or what should be South Korea, and there's some South Korea in what should be North Korea. So, yeah.
Didn't change the map much.
Could you react to Kings and Generals video about the original medieval Wales, please? Yeah, sure. We'll do it like after all the Kraut videos. If I'm not like totally exhausted.
The Americans and the state in the North allied to the Soviets. The only substantial change this
and now the Chinese
was the utter devastation of the Korean Peninsula. Up to 3 million people had been killed, many more displaced, entire cities had been destroyed, infrastructure was ruined. This put the two Koreas and their peoples
At
into
the
a very
same
unique
level.
position,
Yeah.
because both Koreas had to
Okay,
embark on a project of rebuilding.
I see what he's trying to say here. He's gonna be like, look, you can't, like, racism isn't like a real thing, or the people who argue that some peoples are inferior because of the race. Because look, the Koreans were a peoples, and then they got divided in two countries. One is the most prosperous countries that has ever existed, and the other is one of the poorest countries in the world. So I think that's what he's going to be trying to say, but maybe I'm wrong.
Their new respective countries. Both had to rebuild something basically from scrap. And the results are incredible in how different they are. It is rare to find a culture and people so rigidly separated into two different societies and economies of scale. And it is even rarer to have such a stark contrast between the two. One is a prosperous democracy, a champion of the global economy, a country known for excellence in engineering, scientific advancement, and industry.
I wonder what would have happened if North Korea lost the war. American troops on China's border, perhaps. Yeah, that's probably wouldn't be so good. I mean, actually, didn't China get involved in the Korean War? The North Korean government would have fled into China and the USSR. Yeah, true, man. Despite failures so far in the Middle East, the U.S. needs to keep an eye there. The Middle East and Central Asia is aligned to the CCP. True, that's true, and even Africa itself. China kind of saved North Korea.
Stable democratic society on the rule of law, where rights to property, life, speech, and public sovereignty are enshrined and protected. South Koreans enjoy some of the highest standards of living in the world. They're among the best educated in the world, and are increasingly known for their art and creative expression. The other Korea is a Stalinist hellscape. When it isn't smuggling heroin or counterfeit currency, it is threatening the world with nuclear war. It has trouble building the basic agriculture and trade infrastructure needed to feed its own population due to decades.
I mean, a lot of times people don't really realize it, but North Korea has had some huge famines. I mean, like literally millions dying. And even today, like how many people do you think are starving in North Korea? Probably a lot, and it's just one of the saddest places to be born. I mean, can you really think about a worse place to live than North Korea to be born in? I don't think so. I mean, maybe even poorer places in Africa, but at least some of them have some sort of freedom, right? North Korea, you got no freedom, no wealth, you've got nothing. Holy fuck. I mean, it really is probably the worst place to be born in.
Repeated famines, North Koreans are on average
and South Korea is one of the best.
Shorter than South Koreans. There's no rule of law.
I read about that. I've read about that fact, and it's so interesting. It is interesting if you think about it. Due to the malnourishment, like bad nutrition in general, South Koreans have grown taller. So, hey, maybe it's evolution. I don't know.
Absolute and
but it's interesting. Absolutely.
Offending the North Korean dictator in any way can result in an immediate death sentence. The vast majority of
concentration camps, they do have that. I'm sorry, like forced labor camps.
Dictators live in wealth and luxury. Tens of thousands are imprisoned in gulags and forced into labor camps all across the country.
Labor camps.
The public has zero influence over the policies of the state. There's no public accountability. Rights and liberties are a fantasy. The population is indoctrinated by the state.
It's the worst place to be born, and I bet it's not even close. Yeah.
And that their country is a paradise on earth and the wealthiest in the world. Yet, this state has to guard its borders to prevent its citizens from fleeing. The contrast could not be more extreme. One country is known for K-pop, cars, mobile phones, Oscar-winning movies, and amazing cuisine. The other is a nation of starving, angry, racist midgets with nuclear weapons and a fat king.
Yo, Kraut, what the fuck, my man? You're dissing North Korea. Damn, that was a big one. Holy fuck! What a bunch of midgets. Let's hear that again.
Pop, cars, mobile phones, Oscar-winning movies, and amazing cuisine. The other is a nation of starving, angry, racist midgets with nuclear weapons and a fat king. The absurdity of North Korea is frequently in the news. There are many ways to see it, as a geopolitical threat.
I mean, it's not like watching anyone from North Korea is gonna watch it. I mean, you do have a point though, but damn, that was harsh. But you're right, though. Of course, probably no one will see this from North Korea.
I'd like to see North Korea different.
Maybe a few people.
I would encourage you to look at North Korea that way too. The division of the Korean Peninsula is the largest nature versus nurture experiment in human history, conducted over the course
and
of
it's nurture
millions of people, and its results are very conclusive. During the 1870s, the Italian prison doctor Cesare Lombroso was hacking apart the corpses of dead inmates in the Pesaro prison. The Italian state was only 1 year old, formed out of a revolution that had kicked out the Austrians and unified a group of duchies and cities into one state. And that state already faced a problem. The South. South of Rome, in particular Naples, Calabria and Sicily, everyone was poorer, the government was corrupt, barely anything worked.
This is an interesting argument because this happens in many countries. I mean, Spain is the same thing. The north is like poorer, and maybe even in Germany, you know, like are the Catholic regions in Germany poorer than the northern regions? You know, like Bavaria and all those. That'd be an interesting question. I don't know why this happens so much, but oh well.
Crime was high, and it almost seemed like the South would never improve, no matter what the wealthy cities of the North did. While doing an autopsy on a Calabrian robber, Dr. Lombroso noticed 2 dimples in his skull, and...
Oh wow! No, it's actually southern Germany that's the wealthiest. Damn, East Germany is... Okay, yeah, that's true, that's true. I forgot about East and West Germany, but yeah. Damn, I don't know, because I thought, you know, it's southern Germany, very different from the north, but yeah, you're right.
Maybe southern Italians are just biologically inferior, a separate race.
In England, the south is far more richer than the north.
From there, a historicist
I would imagine that London is quite the global city.
Having been conquered by Moorish kingdoms, southern Italians may have mixed with what he saw as inferior African races and were therefore more prone to violence, uncivilized and ungovernable. Lombroso's ideas caught on, and were part of a larger trend of pseudoscientific racism at that time. To this day, the racist notion of people being racially inferior persists in many parts of the world. The entire
northeastern third of Germany, minus Berlin, is the poorest.
A lot of northern Italians that
I would imagine that.
Won't improve,
East Germany,
you cannot improve on a supposed racial inferiority of
in civil.
The South was therefore largely left to itself and consequently wallowed further into poverty and...
Those ideas of the South being inferior made the South poorer. So it was not the fact that they are a little bit more mixed or the fact that, you know, it's just they are a little bit different, right? It's just the fact that they were left alone by their country because they thought initially that they were poorer. And even here in Mexico, a lot of people in the South tend to be a lot poorer because there are a lot more indigenous communities in the South. So the North, that has more of a European culture and communities, is wealthier because in the past, they used to leave the indigenous communities alone, and they became poor because, well, they had no help from the government. So, yeah, you can hear a lot of that language, too, in Mexico, you know, like, oh, the shittier states are in the South because they are more indigenous. So, yeah. It's very fucked up.
Despair.
Messed up.
Through this, the poverty
France South was more poor than the North. So some people start calling them inferior and decadent.
To improve it.
Wow.
By the 1880s,
so it also happens in France, huh?
Began one of the largest migrations in human history.
Brazil,
Up to 20
Argentina.
million to 30 million of them left southern Italy for the United States, Brazil, and Argentina. Something that politicians in northern Italy at the time welcomed and encouraged as a means to rid the country of an inferior
Religion
race.
also played a massive role.
Ironically,
in the UK during the 19th century, there was a feeling of Anglo-Saxon superiority, and the Celtic Irish were below them. That sort of reminds me of the USA. There were also a lot of anti-Irish and even anti-Italian sentiments at some point. So I guess that's where the anti-Irishness that the United States had in the past. Of course, right now, Irish people are white and Italian people are the same. They're white. But in the past, I think they were not considered like white people. Let me see. There's like signs and stuff. You can even like no Irish allowed. Like, yeah, for example, like this, like help wanted, no Irish need apply. No Irish, no blacks, no dogs, you know? You see that? So it's definitely quite a strange... well, this happened in Britain Was there anti-Irish racism in Pastor Ben? Yeah. Wow.
That mass immigration of southern Italians into the United
Same
States
for the
is what
Breton.
ultimately proved Lombroso wrong.
In France, it was
From
because
star
most of them
athletes to
Protestant and
musicians to
socialists
successful
were from the
businessmen
South.
and to scientists,
Also, the
and
fact that
Nobel
the South was more
laureates,
rural.
social media stars, to movie
Get that?
directors
Hello,
and
McMahon.
actors,
How are you
to a
doing,
Supreme
brother?
Court justice. Southern Italians proved that they were more than capable
Yeah.
to be law.
And now I bet that Southern Italians in the United States are wealthier than Northern Italians in Italy, right? So I guess they laughed.
Abiding and successful
Pretty hard.
citizens within a social framework that gave them the ability to freely
They
work,
are the
prosper,
ones to
and
laugh
succeed.
at last.
Today, the average Italian
Yeah,
American,
there we
who is
go.
by and large a descendant of southern Italian immigrants, is better educated and has a higher average income than your average
The
Northern
Bretons
Italian.
are the best.
The cruelest irony about Lombroso's racist nonsense is that he was Jewish, and 10 years after his death, his racist nonsense became the law in Mussolini's Italy, where his own children, who had broken with him over his racist nonsense, suffered the consequences
Of
his
the
nonsense by
Holocaust?
becoming victims of the Holocaust.
No
The histo-
way, bro. That's insane. That's so sad because there's a lot of people that are Jews and they're also pretty racist. Wow. Damn, that's
Value of
harsh.
Theories of race.
That's
are also
fucking
questionable,
harsh.
to say the least. Take the entire basis of the previous
that's a
claim,
Ukrainian
the idea
flag.
that southern Italians are racially inferior
Like
because
that?
they were conquered by North Africans. What is it exactly that supposedly makes North Africans less civilized? North African kingdoms of the early Middle Ages tended to be urban functioning state structures at a time when most of Europe
Yeah, the African coast was some of the most valuable territories that the Roman Empire had.
remained under
So,
a
you
feudal
know.
structure. The last conquerors of southern Italy were also not North Africans, but the Normans. The Normans are in fact often cited in racial theories of history as a supposedly superior people, yet close examination of southern Italy reveals that Norman feudalism,
We will
when
never
examined,
let Corsica
ultimately
go.
is the foundational cause of southern
Everyone's
Italian
opinions on
poverty. The
Corsica.
ideas
Oh,
Lombroso
damn.
formulated,
I don't want to get into
unfortunately,
that.
still fall on
But you
fertile
guys
ground
fight.
in some
That's gonna be
cases to
fun.
this very day. The notion that some people are just racially inferior is a highly susceptible one to some, but it never withstands closer inspection and scrutiny. Besides Italy, elsewhere in the world you will find similar revelations that disprove the theory of race.
Huh.
Argentina is one of the most
Oh, yeah. There we go. That's why he had Argentina. Argentina is one of the whitest places in the world. Like people in Argentina are very European. And despite that, it's like one of the poorest countries in the Americas. To be honest, Corsica should be Italy. Their language sounds more like Italian and it would make sense geographically. At one point, there was a book named The White N-Word of America. That was about the French Canadians. Wow.
most ethnically European countries in the world.
That's
The Native
insane.
Americans of Argentina were
French
almost
Canadians
completely
sometimes get a
wiped
lot of
out by disease and
hate.
genocide. It is estimated that up to 30% of Argentines have native ancestry, but that
Yeah.
usually lies
They do
several
have
generations
a lot
back.
of
Barely 1.5%
indigenous ancestry.
of Argentina's population is Native American, and only 2% are mixed race Native
No, I mean,
European
don't call me
descendants.
Mexican. It says.
Argentina used to be a frontier country in the Spanish Empire. Its population consequently consisted mainly of European.
Argentina has one of the best geographies for any country. So in theory, Argentina is big, has good geography. They should be like a successful country or a developed country.
European settlers who settled there with the intention to escape the authority,
crown, yeah.
laws, and taxes of the Spanish crown. The African slave population was
Speak
comparatively
white
low,
to a
and
French
before the
Canadian,
abolition of slavery,
bro.
the Argentinian
That's so-
government allowed
that's so
Argentine
strange.
slave owners to sell their slaves to neighboring Brazilian slave plantations, which many did.
Huh.
Since racial intermarriage was not illegal, and because of the enormous influx of European immigrants in the 19th century, the remaining Afro-Argentine population diluted through
Diluted,
intermarriage
yeah.
and almost completely vanished into the wider European population.
I agree.
Only
Corsica should be
0.3%
Italian.
of
Damn.
Argentina's population is black. Only 7% claim black ancestry. We all know the memes mocking Argentinians over claims of being
Bro, this is a black guy or a very dark-skinned guy with a shirt of the Argentine football team or soccer and says Argentina is white. And look, all the European countries like, Greece, the Netherlands, and even Uruguay is here, Belgium, Italy, Germany, and of course there's Argentina, neglected by it. Argentina is fair, Argentina fair.
White, but there's a truth to the claim.
We will not
but also
let
to the
that
joke.
happen.
Some
Corsica should be
Argentines
independent.
may get a sense of misplaced pride and bigotry out of their
Mucho
heritage,
blanco, a
such
lot
as
of
when
white.
its president recently proclaimed that Argentinians came from European
Oh,
ships,
yeah.
while Mexicans are Indians and Brazilians.
Yeah, this was a huge thing in Mexico. A lot of people got offended by this. He said that we come from the Indians and like the Brazilians come from the jungles. It's insane. Napoleon is Italian like Hitler was Austrian and Stalin was Georgian. No, he's not. Oh, damn. This is actually going on. Jesus Christ. Napoleon is Italian like Hitler was Austrian. Jesus Christ. I don't want to get into it. Let's watch. Let's watch the video. Sorry about that.
Came from African jungles.
The fire,
But all
I
that
know, I
demographic
love it.
Data that some
We love the
Argentines
drama.
may draw pride from didn't protect Argentines from Argentinian politics, meaning the disastrous decisions, policies, and consequences of Peronism and a fascist junta. Argentina serves as a great example of how being of a specific ethnicity or race is by no means any kind of guarantee of success, wealth, or socio-political stability. But what about the claim of racial inferiority? In the Caribbean, you will find the poorest and most dysfunctional state in all of the Americas,
Haiti?
And there's a claim made by some that Haiti finds itself in this position because its population is over 90% black. Similar claims have been made about various impoverished Caribbean states like Jamaica. And these claims
But isn't like the Bahamas majority black? And it's like one of the wealthiest countries in the continent. So I don't know.
have had some horrendous consequences for the region, such as the murder of Afro-Latinos and Haitians in massacres by Dominican military
Dominican
juntas
Republic,
who
yeah.
wanted to keep their country white. The absurdity of the claim
Jesus.
becomes obvious as soon as you look at the three richest states of the Caribbean, the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago,
There we
and St.
go.
Kitts and Nevis. Something
They're all
advocates of
black,
racial
yeah.
theories of development don't like to do because all of them are also over 90% black.
Napoleon should have ruled over Corsica after his death.
In population. But it is far more than just that. Not only are these countries majority Afro-Caribbean in demographics, no, they had to build their prosperity by themselves. When slavery was abolished, many of these places became impoverished and were also increasingly ignored by colonial overlords who sought richer bounties by colonizing Asia and Africa. The cultural norms, their social contracts, the economic
Yeah, they
structures
build
and
it all by
institutions of
themselves.
governance are things that Afro-Caribbeans have by and large
Because by the time the scramble for Africa was happening, the United Kingdom was busy, colonizing Africa, and they were really in love with India, the so-called crown jewel of the empire. So, of course, a lot of these Caribbean colonies were literally forgotten. Like Britain even oh, what, are you a colony? I forgot. So that's actually like a pretty interesting point because these countries had to build everything they have by themselves and they got little to no help from the British, which you might actually argue that maybe that's a good thing. Look at some of the countries that had a lot of British influence like Kenya, South Africa, or India itself. They are not doing very good. So I don't know, maybe the fact that these countries were forgotten by the British was actually good, like a good thing. People from Dominican Republic are considered black by some people. Jesus, a lot of them are. My parents just went to the Dominican Republic. I don't know if you can see the flag back there. Like that one right there. I don't know if you can see it. But yeah, my parents went to Dominican Republic and they said it's pretty chill, actually. Haiti, Rebozo. Remembers Mansa Musa, the richest man in history. Not everyone thinks that he was black. Yeah. Only successful slave revolt ended up paying France reparations and freeing themselves. Yeah, that's true. It's sad though. Haiti, one of the poorest places and most miserable places in the world. Maybe second to North Korea, but and it started as a slave revolt, it's as a noble cause of slaves freeing themselves. So very sad.
built by themselves
Very, very
through
sad.
themselves. With the example of Jamaica, we can also see how the race hypothesis is increasingly disproven by the passage of time. Jamaica may have been poor during the 1990s, but has in recent decades made increasing headways in becoming one of the fastest growing
How are you doing, my friend?
of the Caribbean, with ever-rising living standards. Jamaica these days is more evidence that black people are not doomed by the color of their skin. There's no genetic or any kind of biological trait that makes Africans, black people, people of African descent, people of color, or whatever your region's preferred terminology is, in any way destined to failure in constructing functioning societies. The stereotype of the poor African increasingly falls apart.
India was the most important colony when it comes to race. The UK allowed more white nations like Australia and Canada to have dominion status, which means their government had more freedoms. Exactly. Like, that's totally the point. And a lot of peoples in places like India, like Pakistan, like Kenya, like South Africa that weren't white, were really set. I mean, South Africa is a great example. Literally, 90% of the population of South Africa is black, or 80%. Yet all of those people got secluded to a bunch of ghettos and slums, and the 10% of South Africa that was white lived and had wealth, right? So those are very clear examples that it's not the color of someone's skins, but the racism that has created all of that. I'm great. I watch your videos a lot. Thank you. I appreciate that. You made my day.
Part with the increasingly emerging success stories of several African states.
Seychelles is also, I think Seychelles is the most developed African country, and they have a high human development index score, and they have a decent GDP per capita, so there are plenty of examples of black people or Arab people or Indian people or Latinos who can rule themselves and have a good, decent country. Uruguay is one of the most prosperous countries, and Chile.
Prospering and functioning majority African society.
Oh, God. I'm gonna offend the entire country of France by saying free Brittany, free Corsica, free the Basque. Okay. Well, that last one offends all Spaniards too. Yep, free the Basque country. Jesus Christ, based golden toaster.
Proves the notion of African racial inferiority.
There's about to be a lot of fire in the comments.
Period. North Korea is not in such a bad state because it is racially inferior to South Korea. As mentioned before,
it's the same race. It's the same people.
Petri dish of the largest nurture versus nature experiment in human history, and the results are very conclusive. North Koreans are not racially inferior. They're just communists.
Britain, Libre, and
institutionally
Jesus.
Inferior. Institutions matter.
Free Alsace-Lorraine. Oh, yeah. Free Alsace-Lorraine, said by a German. So that's funny though. You made me laugh, man.
The color of the skin.
Free Alsace-Lorraine. The Krauts will not be erased.
Thank you for watching this video. You can support.
That's it. I felt that. I mean, this video was short, man. 13 minutes. Jesus. We are steamrolling through these videos. Oh my God. French people in the chat are very quiet. At least it's not the Balkaners arguing. True, that could be a lot worse. No apart Alsace-Lorraine. Make Alsace-Lorraine German again. Alright. The limits of geographic determinism. I don't speak baguette. Oh shit.
This video.
I don't speak baguette. Holy crap. It's a lot of fire in the comments, and I love it. You guys make me laugh so freaking much. But I don't know. I don't know if it'd be a great idea to make Alsace-Lorraine German again. Well, you technically said free Alsace-Lorraine, so I'll give you that. Okay, let's wait a few minutes for the chat to respond and calm down. Let's watch the sponsor. So, the limits of geographic determinism. I haven't watched this one, of course. I guess he's going to talk about that the It's like the video he made about Mexico. Do you guys remember the Mexican-American border? He said that the two cities that border each other, Nogales, that was the name of the cities. One was American, one was Mexican, and they both had like the same geography and climate, but one was a lot wealthier than the other. You know, it's not because the climate, it's about the systems and the institutions and the country that creates said systems and institutions. Kaliningrad belongs to the Czechs. Serbian war music is insane. My friend who's German was saying the other day, all lands that were once Prussia should be returned to Prussians. That'd be interesting. I mean, I would like a Prussian and like independent Prussian country. That'd be interesting. I don't think. Okay, so I need the German people in the chat respond to this comment. Do you know, like in the United States, people feel a lot sometimes for their state, like I am Texan, I am Californian. Do people in Germany say I am Bavarian, I am from Saxony, from Prussia? Well, there's no Prussia right now in Germany, is it? But, you know, do they say that? Do people say that in Germany? Hungary should get travel land. Germany is going to invade Poland again. I think, unfortunately, Prussia should not be German because of the ethnic cleansing that was done by the Soviets after World War II. Yeah, like Kaliningrad has a bunch of Russians in it. Yes, they do. Oh, really? Bavarians, definitely. Maybe not Westphalians, though. True. Well, yeah, that was my guess. Maybe like big regions like Bavaria, maybe even Saxony, you know. What about this has done a video on the possibility of a modern mass famine? Jesus. Maybe we can watch that at the end. We have a few videos. Okay, let's watch the video, the intro.
Geographic Determinism is sponsored by War Thunder. War Thunder is a multiplayer combat simulator with over 2,000 historically accurate vehicles and planes. All vehicles have their historically accurate models down to the nicest little detail, including my favorite ones, the MiG-21.
Let's not skip the sponsor, you know, let's be nice about it and
contribute to a highly
let the
gameplay experience.
sponsors
Really nice to look at.
show
War
up.
Thunder is a cross-platform title.
War
meaning
Thunder.
If you're on a PC like myself, you get to dominate all over all those Xbox and PlayStation people and show them their place at the bottom of the food chain. The detailed damage
Nice,
models
I like
mean
that.
you have
I like to game in my
calculate where
PC
you aim
though.
and shoot, and can't just brainlessly shoot at everything. The customizable skins feature also permit you to custom.
Is there any regionalism in Mexico, or is it fairly centralized? There's not any big regionalist movement. There's no independence movement of any state or region in Mexico. In the north, a lot say that there's some sort of northern identity that has always been there. It's kind of like a neo-Confederate movement, but without the slavery and racism. It's kind of like we are northern people and we're different than the rest of Mexico. But in reality, most northern people don't care. And there has been in the past like indigenous secessionist movements, but I don't think that there are any strong sentiments to it now. So Mexico, I would say, is fairly centralized. Bring the Balkans to the world. France should not be divided by some separation thugs. France should actually expand. Come on, bro. Why would France expand? I like the modern French borders, you know? Although that Alsace-Lorraine comment was pretty good. I don't know. Maybe I'm changing my mind.
You can join this game for free. If you join the game through the link in the description, you will also get a bonus pack that includes a premium account, premium boosters,
Give back Alsace-Lorraine.
Many thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring.
How do you say Alsace-Lorraine in German?
Geography is the
Because Alsace-Lorraine is like French.
Try to explain historical and political development. Geography is not.
There are more Westphalians than Bavarians. It's just that Bavarians are pretty culturally distinct and politically different from the rest of Germany. Right, it's more like Austria. I have Alsatian ancestors, and no, we are French. But I would like if the German-speaking lands in Switzerland, Austria, Luxembourg, and France should be part of Germany. Jesus. Elsass-Lothringen. No, that's terrible German, bro. I need to study more German. Can the UK have Normandy back? Look, now the United Kingdom is like going after France too. France should get Louisiana. I don't know. Well,
Something that
yeah,
no
let's
doubt
do
is
it. Why
physical
not?
reality.
I mean,
You can't
give
just
Texas
walk up
back to
a mountain
Mexico,
and
you know,
claim that
fuck it.
mountains are simple
California
constructs,
too
and
would
therefore
be
the physical
rich.
barriers they create are not real. Well, you can, but you will be laughed at. But most importantly, the study of how geography
France should be
shapes
part of
society,
Italy,
its
not gonna
conclusions
lie.
as
Oh my
presented by
God.
geographic determinists, more often than not, are correct. It is very rare for a geographic determinist to get something wrong. I'm
Really?
going to try to critique geographic determinism somewhat in this video. But before I even do so, I want to point out to you all that I'm
This is
not outright
not
dismissing
a
it
debunked
entirely.
video.
As mentioned before, the geographic determinist is most of the time correct.
I would agree. You know, I think a country has to do a lot with its geography, right? For example, if you add, let's say, Libya or Algeria, these are pieces of desert. Don't you think their geography has a lot to do with the country itself? Well, of course. Saudi Arabia is a piece of desert, but there's a lot of oil, a lot of dinosaur juice. Oh my God, Normandy was French. Normandy was not an English colony, but Singsland was a colony of Normandy, and so Franks. Nice timing, Thomas. You know what? Let's reform the Roman Empire. I like that. Before the French behead me, I don't think Quebec should be French. So true. Giga Chat, Golden Toaster. Normandy was Viking. Jesus Christ.
I am mainly making this video to explain to
You guys are something else, though.
mine who often voice their criticisms in the comments why I am not a geographic determinist.
Just some
It is
food for
difficult to
thought.
argue against geographic determinism, in particular against the favorite case study of the geographic
The USA?
determinist, Russia.
Oh,
Whatever
Russia.
your approach of research, interpretation, or your biases may be, it cannot be denied that much of Russia's social, economic, and political development was driven by how its society interacted with the vast geography of its landmass and the harsh winters. A while ago, I made a video
Yeah.
presenting and going through the Russian political development from a perspective outside of geography.
Yeah,
I
we
could
watched
also
this
simply
video,
not
I
avoid
think.
mentioning the importance of geography. There are certain established points.
France should get back the Frank Empire. Kosovo is Serbia. Oh my God. Okay, I can like Quebec should be French. Oh no. Mode Kosovo is in a country. Oh Jesus.
made by
No.
geographic
Let's not get
determinists
into
are
that.
almost true. Let's take one of these examples. Mountains are great barriers. They are the reason why some societies don't interact.
For the people that are watching this on YouTube later, what do you think about my chat? You know, I fucking love them, but oh, Belgium, a hella disrespectful name for their southern region, Luxembourg, after taking it from Luxembourg in the third partition. What's a Kosovo? Oh shit. Northern England can be Danish since it was once the Danish Viking. That's very nice from you, Thomas. Luxembourg should own the world. Oh yeah, true. Cyprus should be independent. Cyprus is independent, isn't it?
Act and influence.
Luxembourg should own the
Mountains are
world.
great
Well, what about
refuges, and such they
Liechtenstein?
preserve cultures and societies who seek to escape the influence of larger civilizations that reside in
England is
flatlands and
Danish,
coastlines
true.
beyond the
Gustav Mortensen. England is Danish. Oh my God. The second Mexican Empire should return. Get the fuck out of here, man. That's how you always say that.
mountains.
Fun fact,
But
Liechtenstein
what
almost
happens when you
bought
find a region
Alaska.
with social developments that
No
contradict
way.
these
Oh,
assumptions? In
I
the
actually,
Andes of South
for a second, I thought,
America,
wait,
you find
what?
The dominating civilization
England
of
is French.
pre-Columbian South America, the Inca, who constructed their civilization in the mountains, while those who sought to escape its influence.
I have to go back. I haven't paid much attention to this. It's a real story. Look it up. Hold up, bro. Let's actually Google it. You just Alaska purchase. Bro, no way. I think it's actually real. Wait, where's the article? Russia almost sold Alaska to this tiny European country, and that's Liechtenstein. Wow. What the fuck? Oh my God. What a world that we're living in, huh? In an alternate universe, Alaska is from Liechtenstein. Hey, that'd be nice, though. You know what? That'd be nice. I approve that. Alaska should be from Liechtenstein. Alaska is part of Liechtenstein now, officially. The Liechtenstein is real. So true, bro. Look it up. Bro, 60% of the English language is French and Latin. Oh, shit. True, we had Danish kings. Is right. On the Second Mexican Empire comment, not gonna lie, you approved the Second Mexican Empire? Bro, it was fucked up. Thanks, get ass. Both of you, shut the fuck up. Nothing gonna be left. That would have been border gore. The Americans had no horses after Ice Age, so maybe Centralites started in the mountains. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're watching a video.
Side of geography, but I could also simply not avoid mentioning the importance of geography. There are certain,
of course, yeah, geography is like super important.
Geographic determinists that are almost always
just
true.
replace the French and Latin words with Germanic words. Oh god.
Barriers. They are the reason why some societies don't interact and influence each other.
Flanders should be Dutch, Wallonia should be French.
Cultures and societies who seek to escape the influence of larger civilizations that reside in flatlands and coastlines beyond the mountains. But what happens when you
Brazil
find
Empire number 2 electric boogaloo. Korea should have never been divided. Yeah, I think that's a fair one. Korea should never have been divided.
Constructed their civilization in the mountains, while those who sought to escape its influence sought to do so in jungles, coastlines, and flatlands. Throughout pre-colonial South America, you will find that many civilizations contradict our Eurasian and African assumptions of geography and society. You will find few civilizations established around river basins, but many in geographic environments that many of us in Europe, Africa, and Asia would consider
that's the Aztec Empire, that's the Inca.
Civilizations of pre-Columbian America were civilizations that specialized in settling, building, and prospering on geography that was difficult by Europe.
Yeah, I mean, the Aztec Empire was Tenochtitlan, the city that now is Mexico City, was built on a lake, which is maybe not the best place to build a city. And, you know, the Incas empire, and I think one of its biggest cities was Machu Picchu, was in the mountains, in the Andes, like one of the highest mountain ranges in the world. So a pretty interesting argument. Okay, my chat is going insane.
So, African standards. Their societies simply favored such conditions.
Giga chat, totally.
What is the more
all Scandinavian nations uniting to the Scandinavian Empire. All of Europe is Frankish, bruh.
And interact with geography.
I agree. Finland and Estonia should unite, though.
That's an example of the conflict between interpretations through geography and society.
In Manchuria, Korean lands. Okay.
A civilization that we know little about. Nobody knows why this city was abandoned. Ancient and medieval Cambodians recorded their history by writing them on palm leaves. These only survived up to 100 years and then rotted away. They had to continuously be copied. Writing history was a religious ceremony for the medieval Khmer, in accordance to Hindu and later Buddhist concepts of life, decay, and renewal. Every century, monks would copy the texts from rotting leaves onto fresh leaves and form a chain of historical records that passed through time in a cycle. But that chain was interrupted in the 13th century. And because of this, a large volume of Cambodian history that happens to coincide with the abandoning of Angkor Wat is not known to us. 19th century French historians claimed there was a sudden civilizational collapse.
C'était la Rome d'acier.
Believed that Angkor did not abruptly fall, but was
Poland-Lithuanian Commonwealth ran? That'd be cool, though.
Centuries from the 1300s to 1600s.
Based, yeah, I agree.
The historian will point out that we know that the abandonment of Angkor coincided with an increase of seafaring trade by Southeast Asian civilizations and a consequent shift in socio-economic power structures that benefited those living in coastal regions. Beginning in the 1400s, the seafaring trading kingdoms of Asia and East Africa rose in power, while the landlocked kingdoms based on agricultural wealth all began to decline. But we also know that the abandonment of Angkor Wat coincided with a religious change in Buddhist theology. Angkor was built as a monastery close to the river Kabal Spin, which is considered a sacred river by Hindus and Buddhists. Much of the inscriptions of the temples and their statues, as well as the many monuments, are testaments to a society organized around religion.
I haven't paid attention to the video like at all. Bro, I haven't paid attention to the video like at all. I'm like watching at the chat and laughing at it. I'm like, bro, this is so funny.
A narrative of rise and fall is wrong. And to understand this, I will point at this, the great sleeping Buddha of Angkor Wat. Why? Because archaeologists have conclusively proven that this Buddha statue was built in the 1600s, a full 300 years after what many still believe was the collapse of Angkor. So how was this massive Buddha put in this place in a society that supposedly no longer existed? That's because it did still exist. Starting in the 1300s, there were no longer great stone temples being built, but huge flat stone basins. And what archaeologists figured out is that these stone temples were abandoned in favor of...
Geography Now made a video in Turkmenistan.
Which over time rotted away.
That'd be cool to watch, but I have to watch many videos of Geography Now, including the one on Turkey, which I have a lot of Turkish people watching my channel. So I would like to do that, but I don't think today. We have still a 50-minute video to go, you know? So I don't think...
Because by the 1300s, Mahayana Buddhism, the faith of those who built the stone temples, declined, and Theravada Buddhism became the dominant faith. Theravada Buddhism emphasizes the temporariness of life. In many ways, it rejects grand expressions of faith in favor of modest practicing of faith. Attempting
modest, I like that.
Present through the construction of stone temples.
I've always been very interesting about Buddhism, so I definitely interesting about this particular group of Buddhists. Geography Now, Ukraine is coming soon. Oh, that's gonna be tough. Oh yeah, you never watched the Turkey. Yeah, I would really want to watch the Turkey one.
Folly. Everything is a cycle of life and death, and one ought to accept and appreciate that cycle.
Wait, what?
Leave a mark in the present through the construction of stone temples is seen as folly. Everything is a cycle of life and death, and one ought to accept and appreciate that cycle. Temples in Angkor.
Everything is a cycle of life and death, and we ought to appreciate that cycle. I like that a lot, you know? I don't know, this kind of philosophy has always been interesting to me.
Consequently started being built with wood, and they were allowed to rot away with time. For the Theravada Buddhist, no man-made thing can be sacred. A temple built by men is as temporary as
the East Asian version of Buddhism is a slap in the face to everything Buddha thought.
Constructed. We also
definitely gotta read more about that, but I imagine a few things why.
Was increasingly abandoned. The large stone temples were allowed to be overgrown with forests, symbolizing the new temporality that the new Buddhist theology emphasized. All of this was done deliberately as an expression of the predominant religious norms of the time. There's a question to be made about what has the highest impact here in the decline and abandonment of Angkor. Was it the society or was it the geography? Does geography shape society? Or
what does this have to do with geography as of now?
Surrounding geography. The reason why I love giving Angkor as an example is because neither me nor the geographic determinists will be able to give you an answer. The history of Angkor from the 1300s to 1600s is a known unknown. We will never know what happened. Angkor is a great illustration of how history is not just about interpreting what we know, but also interpreting what we do not.
Buddhism is kind of cool, even though most people don't know about it. It's actually pretty cool. Probably the only religion that I really feel good about.
Oceans used to be deep, large pits of certain doom and death. With the exception of the Polynesians, most civilizations did not know how to navigate deep oceans. We tended to do coast hopping around smaller oceans and along coasts until the Portuguese invented the caravel and cross staff, thereby enabling deep sea navigation. The way we interacted with the geography of oceans thereby completely changed. The oceans were suddenly no longer deep, gloomy pits of certain death, but free highways leading all around the world. So is the geography of oceans really something that shapes our societies, or is it more how we as societies engage with the geography of oceans?
Chexar's labs. Yes, Chexar's labs.
The Atlantic coastlines of Portugal is what made the Portuguese a seafaring society of excellent sailors and navigators. But those who see societal developments as the main drive will point at technology and ancient Arab maps which were translated into Portuguese in the 1400s and given to the Portuguese. The geographic determinist will say that the geography of coastlines is what furthered the development of that technology in the first place. And then someone like me will point at the Ottoman blockade on European trade. Then the geographic determinist will jump in to claim Anatolian geography made that Ottoman blockade possible in the first place. Then someone like me will claim that the Ottoman takeover of Roman institutions
Constantinople
enabled them in the first place. And so we are here, we end up stuck with a chicken or egg debate. Another example is China. The geographic determinist will tell you that the rough nature and constant flooding of the...
I mean, yeah, geography is pretty important about a country. If you look at some of the world's most powerful countries, like, for example, the USA is the perfect example. And I do believe that geography was extremely influential to make the USA a big global power, or the biggest global power, in fact. And you can say the same thing about China, about Russia, and about other powerful countries. Their geography is important, but it's not everything.
The Yellow River resulted in Chinese civilization developing state structures earlier than most to facilitate the management of the river through the collective actions organized to maintain dams and irrigation. While I will emphasize that competition among warring states are what shaped the early civilizations of China in a process of finding the more efficient state structure to fight war. In Egypt, the geographic determinists
China,
that
the Nile River,
which requires no large collective social efforts to control, combined with the isolation of the Nile River Valley, cut off from invaders by deserts, ocean, and mountains, resulted in Egypt becoming a stagnant society that didn't innovate and consequently was overrun and conquered by outsiders. While those like me who see social causes as the reason will argue that the absolutism of the pharaonic system combined with the well-recorded ancient Egyptian cultural hostility towards any and all outsiders is what caused the stagnation and
Ramses
by the early Egyptian civilizations. Another popular variant of the geography argument.
Oh, okay. Pop quiz. What nationalist claim about geography would anger the most people? Israel versus Palestine. Crimea. I think Crimea is a big one. And maybe Scotland would get a lot of people too. I don't know. That's not a conversation you want to start through Israel versus Palestine. I think Israel versus Palestine would be the biggest one, to be honest. Which one else? I mean, Cyprus and Northern Cyprus and that whole thing is also pretty big in the Middle East Europe region. Catalonia in Spain. Catalonia is going to be... Oh, Taiwan. That's true, though. Probably the number of continents, yeah. Oh, the number of continents would be a big mess. South China Sea. Kosovo in the Balkans. I say the answer is Greece should be owner of Constantinople. Oh my God. That's a big claim. That's a big... I have a lot of viewers from Turkey, so I'm not going to comment on it.
This comes from Jared Diamond, who argued that the origins of modern inequality stems from a larger availability and variation of domesticable animals and plant species in the Fertile Crescent, allowing the inhabitants of it to settle quicker, develop complex social structures first, and through such
based Constantinople build
civilizations. The Fertile Crescent.
I like the name Constantinople a lot better. So it'd be really nice that at least the city gets its name back. I mean, that's the most controversial, yeah.
Diamond's view,
yeah, you're right. Like, controversial it is, my friend.
Civilization and consequent European prosperity. However, pre-Columbian America cuts through this hypothesis as well.
There we go.
The Aztecs
That's
and
us.
Inca were more prosperous than the Spaniards who conquered them. Jared Diamond's thesis would imply that this prosperity would have continued with the adopting of the technologies imported from Europe.
Not that I 100% agree. True. No love for Byzantium.
Conquered by the Spanish, Central and South America.
Not a lot of love for Byzantium, but
modern economic structures and modern political institutions. They became poorer.
Reformed the Babylonian Empire.
Of wealth in the
And I also like the name Byzantium.
With North America becoming wealthier, while South America became poorer. Jared Diamond also famously argued that technologies, domesticated animals, crop species, and innovations travel faster from west to east and east to west than they do from south to north and north to south. This is simply not true. It is funny enough contradicted by the geography hypothesis itself, namely by how oceans are free highways that make trade and transport easy, no matter where and in what direction or whatever pole. And this pointed out by Darren Acemoglu and James Robinson when looking at the geographic distribution of ancestral animals.
Wild pigs, wild cattle.
We noticed that their wide distribution beyond the Fertile Crescent contradicts Jared Diamond's theory. As mentioned before, this debate between what it is, geography or society,
It's
can often
Ankara.
devolve in a what came first, the chicken or egg?
What's the
debate.
capital of Turkey? And I said it, Constantinople. Based. Bro. Tarku, what is your nationality? Thomas, like, I say there's a better case for an Assyrian empire because at least the Assyrian people still exist. Reform the Babylonian Empire. My God, you are based. Quebecois.
Mountains and the role
I actually
they
remember
played,
that.
refugees,
Oh wait,
the bread and
we should
butter
be saying Turkey. I don't know. I fucking hate Turkey.
political science is the
Like the
comparative
name, not the
study,
country.
which is to take two countries
I
with
like
similar
Turkey.
structures,
It reminds me of
and
like, I
compare
don't know,
them to see
turkeys.
where one may do something better than the other. Switzerland and Lebanon are two such countries. They may not be obviously similar, but they are when you take a deeper look. Both are mountainous regions that through their mountains functioned as refuges for persecuted peoples and minorities in the region. Those peoples formed different communities, creating
Yeah.
a patchwork society of different groups. If anything, the Lebanese geography is superior to the Swiss geography, as it provides a nice
Base,
long,
vive le
juicy
Québécois
coastline
libre.
compared to the landlocked Swiss. Yet, despite all those similarities, Switzerland is
You just stated the exact reason why the name was changed. LOL. You're right.
one of the best
That made me
functioning
laugh,
states
man.
in the world, while Lebanon is one of the most
I don't know, turkeys
dysfunctional
are
states
tasty.
in the world. So similar, yet still entirely different.
Yeah.
I grant the geography his powers of determining the foundation of
Bro, Kraut has a little parrot. That's nice. We like that.
development based on geography, but the geographer
That's a book
cannot
about the USA,
decisively
isn't it?
explain what that development ultimately will be, and where it takes the peoples
Yeah.
inhabiting that geography, which, I believe, is entirely decided by society. The geography cannot help us understand how we can reform Lebanon to be more like Switzerland. Only a
Yeah.
study
I think a lot of people have already forgotten about the Beirut explosion, but it was huge. And it was fucking massive and a terrible thing United Ireland
of
went.
institutions and policies can do that. Finally,
I don't know,
would
bro.
like
You're
to give
British.
as
Shouldn't
food
be
for thought the
you
favorite
against
example of
the United
institutional
Ireland?
economists to argue against geographic
Oh no, you're a
determinism
good guy. You're a
in
good
South
person.
America. I often have the suspicion that many geographic determinists, especially from North America and Europe, do not even know South American geography.
Based.
Many geographic determinists will tell you that South America has a bad geography, but this is simply not true. Stretching
Isn't it?
across southern Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina, you will find
Oh, well,
the
yeah.
Parana Basin, the single largest freshwater reservoir in the world. Fed by the Amazon, it creates an enormous stretch of fertile agricultural
Yeah.
lands and feeds a network of navigable rivers called
A lot of food, a lot of crops come from this region of the world. And this was a region settled by a lot of Europeans. You know, northern Argentina, southern Brazil, and Uruguay are the whitest places or the more European places in Latin America. And so, yeah, there's some correlation there. Ohio skull. French organs you get to collapse be like, I'm part Irish, so it's an inner conflict. I understand that. I get that. Do you think Lebanon and Tunisia count as descendants of ancient Phoenicians? Huh. I mean, they do view themselves sometimes as Phoenicians. So I'll grant them, yeah. Not a huge debate for me, but I'll grant them the title of Phoenicians. I love you. Thanks, man. Vicente. Thank you, brother. Gracias.
Same geographic benefits of the Mississippi Valley and the American Midwest. The Andes are filled with an enormous abundance of mineral wealth, and the climate is mild and conducive for living and agriculture.
I don't know, bro. I mean, Ohio is pretty tough. I mean, tough in the sense that it's just a big piece of land with nothing interesting to do, and it's boring. Polish people have the most Aryan DNA, just saying, LOL. Oh my god. The Phoenicians probably got it on with a lot of people.
Chile, Bolivia, Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay, in fact, as a collective geographic region, is by the standards of the geographic determinist, one of the single best geographies in the world. But there is not much to show for it, because corruption, mismanagement, dumb foreign meddling, lack of cooperation, and dysfunctional politics has over centuries ensured that the people...
I love how Greece is a fly every time it's related to like money.
America were never able to take advantage of and prosper from their highly beneficial geography. All of these are political problems. Therefore, the causes and solutions lie in policy and not in just studying geography. So, to address, finally, the geographic determinist in the views and comments, I am not someone who intends to just outright dismiss you. There's a good reason why I favor your critiques in the comment section.
Probably I'd be like, I got no man.
I'm not making
I understood that reference.
intention of discrediting
What a brutal
geographic
war.
determinism. I would just like to invite you to engage in that chicken or egg debate with me over what it is that matters more, the society or the geography.
Wow. Interesting question, though. I would say the society, but geography is quite important. Oh, who are the founders of Western civilization in y'all's opinions? Charlemagne, maybe? Greek, the Levant, or Greece? Huh. I would say Greece because of the huge philosophical, architectural, artistic things that we've gotten out of Greece and out of Greek civilization. The Levant is a great option. The Phoenicians too. Reform Gran Colombia. That's based. That's a base take. I want Gran Colombia, dude. The Roman Empire a lot. Greece then Rome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my answer would be the Greeks, wherever they were, because they were not only located in modern Greece. That's why I didn't say Greece, or did I? I said the Greeks. Well, the Greeks, a lot of them were located in the Anatolian Peninsula, and a lot of them were located even in, like as far as Persia. Well, we're one video left, and this is a long video, 53 minutes. I mean, being totally honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the limits of geographic determinism. It just wasn't a subject that I was very interested in. It's rare for me to say that I don't like a Krauts video, but this one, I don't know. Maybe it was because the chat was pretty fun, and I wasn't paying too much attention to the video, but I don't know, it was whatever. Syrian Greek, yeah, it was like 6 out of 10. Which it was still decent. It was informative, but look at the views. It has very little views compared to the ideology of Putin's Russia. Syrian Greek, true. I mean, the answer is probably in the Levant, the Anatolian Peninsula, or, you know, the Balkans, mostly Greece. And of course, then the Roman Empire, which basically made a lot of or influenced a lot of the institutions that we call the law, or even a lot of our societal norms. Chat was entertaining. Yeah, who would be about the Dutch? Yeah, the chat was entertaining, though. It was pretty fun. And the video was kind of meh, so you guys actually helped me, you know? Those videos are small. I want to make us wait for the big one. I know, right? Kraut really knows what he's doing when he makes a video like this. But anyways, let me go to the bathroom real quick. Meanwhile, you guys discuss some edgy subject that will make people mad, especially if it makes the French mad. I would appreciate that. Sorry, I'm back. I'm back, people. I took some time, yeah, that's true. But, you know, that Mexican food was pretty rough. What's the debate? Cope? Most of the Frank used to speak Frankish. Alsace is French right now, was French yesterday and will be French tomorrow. It wasn't French. It's interesting how Roman influence nearly... It's been getting heated. Jeez, I see that. Britain should own all Celtic territory. My God, let me see. Most of the Rhineland used to speak Latin. Alsace, at least historically German-speaking. Parts of Alsace speak German. Speak Alsatian, but they are still French. France ain't getting Rhinelanded. Britannic nationalism is cool. Wow. Okay, well, you guys in the chat have been having fun. I love it. But anyways, now, this is a video I really want to watch. It's about the ideology of Putin's Russia. Russia lately has been a pretty strange country. They aren't economic superpower anymore, but they do have a lot of energy. They do have a one of the largest militaries out there, so I guess you could still call them a superpower, although I don't even know if I particularly agree, especially economically. But let's watch the sponsor. Belgrade in the Balkans has Celtic traits.
If you want to study
Jesus.
history, it is a good idea to learn a foreign language, especially French. Some of the most groundbreaking historians of the last century
were French.
École des Annales were French. Consequently, some of the most important history journals are in French, and because of this, as every history student can tell you, sooner or later you will have to read a French text. Speakly is a language learning app developed by...
I don't know if this about the French really helps you guys' argument, but yeah, a lot of historians are French.
Grounded in building up language skills from everyday life. You download the Speakly app to your phone and can everywhere, at any convenient moment, brush up your language skills through teaching exercises.
Russia has been a strange place for decades. Yeah, that's true. But I feel that now, especially like the last few, well, since modern Russia has existed, right? Because there was the Soviet Union before that. But I don't know. It's just like the rest of the world is against the war against Ukraine. And you would think that the people inside Russia would be against that war too. But actually, I think most of the people inside Russia actually agree with the war, especially the older it gets. So I don't know. It's a strange place. I don't know, man. Listen. Anyways. Watch the video.
Speakly offers you the ability to pick and choose on which aspects of learning a language.
I don't want to skip the sponsor this time because, you know, I think it's nice
you get to pick and decide what you
to use this as publicity for the original creators. So yeah, if you guys want to check this website out, this app, go check it out. Old people aren't eligible for conscription. That's true. That's a really good argument.
Web and mobile. Use the link in the description.
Web? Why did he said it like that?
And get up to 60% off if you join an annual subscription. Many thanks to Speakly for sponsoring this video. Hello. This video is a bit different. A patron asked me what the political theories and ideology of the Putin regime are. I wrote a very long Google Doc explaining it to him, and he and later other patrons insisted that I should make this into a video. Because of the nature of this topic, I decided to not use Poland balls in the editing.
They have been mobilizing 50-year-olds though.
I hope that you still enjoy this video.
Plus, Eastern Europe has a demographic problem since 1991. That is true.
This both surprised me and not surprised me at the same time. You will find
I think that whole demographic collapse is really influencing Putin's decision because it's basically now or never. and now it's better than ever. So
People of both the far right and far left in support of Putin and his regime, which I guess can cause confusion over where exactly this regime politically lies.
Yeah.
And some just outright dismiss the idea.
I've actually had that question. So is Putin or its government very liberal, very conservative? I've had the impression that they've always been very center, right, or centrist. But they do a lot of conservative stuff. But they always sometimes praise the Soviet Union or use like pro-Soviet language, which was far left, straight up socialist. So I don't know. That's actually like a really good question. What ideologically, like, can you explain the ideology of Putin's regime?
Being any sort of ideological purpose behind
Bulgaria
this
is
regime,
expected to
but
lose
claiming
30%
instead
of its
that it is
population
just
in
a
the coming
self-serving
decades.
authoritarian mafia state. I have to counter that claim.
There's talk that Russia will abandon Kherson, blow up the water dams to flood the area. Russia is far right, in my opinion.
To be both at the same time. In fact, I would argue that most authoritarians are gangsters, and that authoritarian politics is gangster politics. To give an example, Horst Wessel was a Nazi brown shirt who was killed by a communist in a street brawl. The Nazis made a propaganda song praising Horst Wessel as a martyr to their cause. But what you won't find mentioned in that Nazi propaganda song, and what is curiously also missing from Horst Wessel's Wikipedia article, is that Horst Wessel was a gangster. He was a pimp who ran an illegal prostitution and ran an extortion racket. The Berlin Criminal Justice Archive has extensive records of his criminality. There's a common misconception that crime, in particular organized crime, is inherently apolitical, or something that is outside of the political process. And that is just not true. If you read a political science book, especially if it is about Italy, you will realize that crime, and in particular organized crime, is in fact a system of political engagement. You will find it throughout authoritarian regimes. There is, for example, a common myth that Mussolini cracked down against the mafia. In fact,
he did not.
Many
did
of
he?
Mussolini's brown shirts were mafiosi thugs who joined to get away with murdering competing mafiosi.
I'm gonna go edit that wiki article. Oh, dude, please.
And they were universal.
That'd be so cool. So freaking dope.
Was not a policy in opposition to criminal violence. It was in fact a policy of gaining a fascist monopoly of criminal violence, through applying a divide and conquer.
I mean, I guess he wanted to make the mafias fascist, so hey.
Policy on the Italian mafia.
The flag goes hard. It goes a little hard, yeah.
Ceausescu was a street gangster. Also, many of the collaborators in Nazi-occupied France.
That is true, though. Stalin used to be, an agitator, and he would go shoot people or just, he was.
Were originally street gangsters, pimps, and heroin smugglers. And there are many more examples. So to summarize, there is no contradiction between being a criminal and being an authoritarian. Organized crime is just a means of anti-democratic politics. With that out of the way, what is the ideology of Putin's Russia? I will try to summarize by using the three most important political thinkers and theorists of the Putin regime. And a spoiler ahead, not one of them is Dugin. Alexander Dugin's influence on what
I don't know who that is, honestly. I need to read more books, I know, but
is very overrated in the West. But more on that at the end of the video. The three figures are Ivan Ilyin, Lev Gumilev, and Carl Schmitt, with Ivan Ilyin being the most important political philosopher of the current Putin regime. In the speech that Putin gave on Friday, the 30th of September 2022, during a ceremony annexing full Ukraine,
would you feed that sword in your mouth, though?
Right at the end of his speech, quote him, "And I want to close with the words of a true patriot, Ivan Ilyin. If I consider Russia my motherland, that means that I love as a Russian, contemplate and think, sing and speak as a Russian, that I believe in the spiritual strength of the Russian people. Its spirit is my spirit, its destiny is my destiny, its suffering is my grief, and its prosperity is my joy. Ivan Ilyin is a recurring
Okay.
feature in the entire political career of Putin. Putin has been citing Ivan Ilyin since the early
It
2000s.
sounds like it. He
Putin,
called him
on
a true
several
patriot.
occasions, declared Ivan Ilyin was his favorite philosopher and historian. In 2006, Putin had Ivan Ilyin's body that was buried in Switzerland.
I know, right? A lot of old regimes that were socialist or communist used to be very socially conservative, which is interesting considering now how we view socialists or communists as also very socially liberal. But I don't think it has. I mean, I think that's actually pretty new. This idea that socialists also very extremely pro LGBT rights and transgender rights and all this stuff. I think that's actually pretty new. But yeah, there were a lot of people in the Stalin years who would support women's rights, and I'm sure the Soviets did some of that stuff. I watched part of this video already, so I can tell you to prepare for some controversial stuff. Ooh.
Exhumed and returned to Russia, where he was reburied during a state ceremony. At
This
which
is gonna
Putin
be
was
good.
present. A year before that ghoulish
I need
ceremony,
some
Putin,
controversy,
on his
though.
own cost, had the entire Ivan Ilyin
The guy that responded to this video had a problem with Ilyin guy.
Ilyin is not just cited by Putin, but by all
What
of
do
his
y'all
ministers.
think of the U.S.
Patriarch-
midterms? Are we in the U.S. midterms? Wait, hold up. I knew the midterms were gonna be someday right now, but is it today? U.S. Holy fuck. Oh, it's not today. It's in a couple of days. I think the Republicans are gonna win, because Joe Biden has been a little weak in some stuff, and they just don't see him as mentally fit. And of course, the economy is in shambles, and there's a lot of inflation. So I think people want some change, and I think they're going to vote for a bunch of Republicans. A lot of Trump-esque figures are going to win. I don't know. Not too excited. I'm too young to vote. Damn, brother, we need those extra votes. Think that too much liberty break liberty. I work at the elections office. Will be busy. Wow, good luck. You can definitely tell us in a later stream about the experience, brother. I would really like to hear what's that like in a midterm election. And I think this midterm election, with everything that's going on, I think it's going to be really important, really big, and I really think that people are going to go out and vote. There's a talk of a huge Republican victory. Trump even said the other day he might return in 2024. You know what? I don't think Trump, maybe he returns, but I don't think he would win. He's just too controversial, even inside the Republican Party. You know, there's a lot of hardcore Trumpists, but there's a lot of regular Republicans or moderate Republicans that just simply aren't comfortable with Trump. And I think there are figures like the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis. I think that guy is going to run, and if he runs, he's going to win. Yo, T-Man, hello, my man. How are you doing? We will have the equivalent of the midterms in France soon, too. Imagine if Trump returns. Bro, how old he would be. I don't know how old he would be, but I think he would be one of the oldest presidents. Yo, what's going on? Not much, man. We're starting this Kraut video about the ideology of Putin's Russia. And we're talking about the midterm elections in the United States. So yeah, I think we can all agree that there might be a conservative victory in the midterms, a lot of them. And I think the 2024 election is gonna go to a Republican, unfortunately. Yep.
Of the Russian
The equivalent.
Church, and promoted by several artists, oligarchs, and other prominent figures across Russia. Ilyin is even a core part of the Russian education system. You will find Ilyin's writings and theories taught to Russian kids and youth in high school and university.
A labor majority in government, in the British
Russia
government, 2024.
the centenary of the Russian Revolution.
I
with
could
a
see
series
that. Yeah,
about
I could see that.
The series, although centered around the historical figure of Trotsky, is narrated from the perspective of Ivan Ilyin. The message of this film to the Russian public is that the Soviet Union and its history, and in particular the revolution, must be examined and understood through the lens of the writings of Ivan Ilyin. Curiously, the presence of Ivan Ilyin in modern Russian politics is almost completely ignored in the West. In many of the translations of Putin's recent
Haven't heard much about the guy. Well, if anything,
the mention of Ivan Ilyin. I guess many in the West do this because they see citations in politics not
too
worthy
soon
of
to tell.
translation. But this
Probably.
is a huge mistake. Ivan Ilyin, evidently, is one of the core influences in Putin's understanding of Russia, of politics, and of Putin's political beliefs. To understand what the ideology of the Putin regime is, one has to understand and confront Ivan Ilyin. So, who was Ivan Ilyin? And what were his political theories about? I will try to explain.
And what were his views on Trotsky? Because Stalin was a huge Trotsky hater, but is he gonna approve or disapprover of Trotsky and maybe approving of Stalin? Who knows though? With the English, maybe not sure. With America, I don't think American democracy survives a Republican in 2024. Not with the rhetoric at the moment. I agree, unfortunately. I mean, look at what the Republicans did in January the 6th. I mean, it has been so insane what's been happening with the Republican Party. I mean, at least some of the like Bush or like some of the people that run later, like what were their names? John McCain and all of them, they were like moderate and they were like kind of okay-ish. But Trump, bro, everything changed with Trump. The Republican Party became the Trump Party. I mean, it has been absolutely insane. Maybe it's just us Anglo-Americans with Quebec.
Segments.
Love the
First,
French people. Been to France many times and had nothing but positive experiences with France. With the
Ivan
French
Ilyin
people.
was born into an aristocratic Russian family. In his early years, he was a Russian reformer who mingled with socialist and liberal reformist groups.
Okay.
Ilyin studied law, and his early work was
So,
about
left-leaning?
abolishing something called Russian lawlessness, and instead establishing a new rule of law. What is this Russian lawlessness? I made an entire video on this, which I will link in the description. To summarize, a legacy of Mongol rule over Russia was the creation of an absolutist Russian state institution that lacked rule of law. It separated Russia from political developments happening in Europe and instead set it onto a different path that strengthened authoritarian rule. As a result, rule of law, meaning law as a standard that applies equally to all, and law as a mechanism to hold rulers accountable, never existed in Russia. Law was always just a cudgel used by rulers to enforce their will. And if you were wealthy or powerful,
It basically goes
you
down
always stand above the law.
to the Mongol
This
Empire.
has historically been true throughout the entirety of Russian history since the 1400s.
Yep.
Many Russian intellectuals have over the centuries debated this legacy. The novelist Dostoevsky
The dude's forehead blends with the background. That's so true, especially like this section though. Like this hardcore
despised
blends.
the West and declared Russia's difference from it to be a mark of cultural superiority, which he called the Russian soul. In contrast, many Russian reformists like Turgenev began despising what they also called Russian backwardness. Conservatives who argued
I agree with that argument, Russian backwardness. I've heard that before, and you could see Russia has always been, at least economically, very backwards from the rest of Europe. And yes, Russia has always been a military superpower. There's no question about that. But if you really think about it, it's just because they have so much people. They've always had so many numbers that they can just throw people at you until you surrender. I mean, what did they do in the Winter War against Finland? At the end, when Finland was winning, they just threw men and more men and more men until eventually Finland could not resist anymore. So yeah, I agree with our argument. Russia, at least economically, has always been very backwards, especially again early in the Soviet days. This video needs Mongolian throat singing. I know, right?
Russian lawlessness
As with everything else,
eventually
it's
became known
always
as
the Mongols.
Eurasianists. There are many words for it: Russian lawlessness, Russian backwardsness, or the Tatar yoke. I prefer using the term Russian lawlessness and will continue using it throughout the rest of this video.
Russian
Ilyin
lawlessness.
was in his student years a critic of Russian lawlessness. But as the First World War rolled
Italian,
in,
French,
he took
English
a dramatic
mix.
shift in his political beliefs. He had studied Hegel in Germany and became a right-wing politician.
That sounds like a great idea, Thomas, actually. Not sure if you've done it before, but I haven't done it. Future stream, could you perhaps react to Epic History's video on the history of Russia? That'd be pretty epic. I would love that. Yes, Epic series is great. All right, we'll do it. Next stream, what do you think?
Went on to become one of the founding
Peak
fathers
language.
and founding theorists of a completely new political ideology of the 20th century: fascism. Ivan Ilin's fascism is often called Christian fascism because of its religious overtones. After the Russian Revolution, Ilin was arrested by the communist secret police, the Cheka, but not executed. The reason for this is that Lenin admired parts of Ilin's work, specifically its anti-Western aspects. Lenin, therefore...
Okay, so what do fascists and communists have in common in Russia? The anti-West attitude. You know, it's always, a lot of times it's always that, you know?
Personally intervened, and instead of Ilin being shot, he was exiled and deported to Germany. You have to keep in mind that this was decades before the Second World War, and years before fascism became a major...
Controversial, as I said,
Lenin famously claimed
it
that
is.
fascism was the last stage of capitalism, which some Marxists to this day like to repeat as if it were some sort of genius insight into the machinations of history. But instead, it was really just an expression of Lenin's authoritarian cynicism. Fascism to him was just useful in ending Western liberal capitalism. So it served
a video about the Mongols, that's also coming. But I would love to do the one about Russia's, especially because everything that's going on.
Ivan Ilin spent some years in German exile and eventually moved to Switzerland.
But wait, wasn't this guy Russia? How could he deported to Germany if he was Russian? Or maybe he was German, I don't know.
He continued writing and expanding on his fascist theories, as well as commenting on current events. He believed that Russia was a uniquely innocent nation of God, which was destined to carry forth and fulfill the promise of fascism. That eventually a fascist uprising would overthrow the communists and redeem Russia.
Now I understand why some of you said that Russia is right or far right, you know? If Putin said this guy was a patriot, a true patriot. Yeah, like a super fascist guy.
When fascism came to power in Italy first, Ivan Ilin dismayed at this, but never gave up the hope that fascism would eventually come to Russia. When the Nazis invaded the Soviet Union, Ivan Ilin wrote in praise of the Nazi invasion. He believed that the Nazis would dislodge the communists and help fascism rise to power in Russia.
Interesting take, because Vladimir Putin is always, especially when he gives like a Victory Day speech or something like that, he's always proud about the Red Army defeating the Nazis and whatnot. Yet this guy, apparently his fucking idol, was like pro-Nazis invading Russia.
The Nazis started losing
Russia's reserve
Ivan Ilin did a 180-degree
nomadic empires,
comments and began
I'll be gone for 4 minutes, guys. That's oddly specific, man, but we'll miss you.
That those victories were actually not communist victories, but Russian victories, and that the Russian victory over the Nazis would prove that Russia was still an innocent and morally superior nation of God.
Morally.
After the end of World War II, Ivan Ilin continued writing and advocating for fascism in his Swiss exile. He believed that communist rule of Russia would eventually collapse, and that a fascist state must replace whatever comes afterward to preserve a Russian empire. The books Ilin wrote in exile were intended as guidelines for the leaders of a post-communist Russia to build that state. After Ilin died, he was largely forgotten. His writings were banned in the Soviet Union anyway, and in the West he was widely seen as some obscure far-right lunatic. But Ilin emerged after the Soviet collapse, and his books became very popular during
didn't he say at the beginning that some of his work was like taught in schools? So doesn't that mean that they are teaching knowingly fascism in Russian schools? Wow. I mean, that makes some sense, but It's really fucked up. Holy crap, I know, right, dude? This is fucked up. They are teaching fascism in Russia. Like, straight up.
As you saw,
He's a patriot to Putin. Wow, that's insane.
Biography out of the way.
Holy shit.
What did Ilyin write? Ilyin's fascism is often called Christian fascism because its foundation is a reinterpretation of Christianity. Ilyin wrote that politics began with God's creation. Through creating mankind, God destroyed the singular truth that was God. Through this, he doomed humanity.
The Red Army was a meat grinder without morale.
Desires and passions, which people may pursue, but are unable to gain from them a restoration of the sole and only good, that is God.
It is the case for many countries, or a different extent, of course.
Breaks with
Yeah, that's true.
Christian, but also Abrahamic theology. By claiming that God's creation was essentially a mistake, Ilyin basically claimed that God was fallible. And you will not find that in any conventional Abrahamic religion. In the Abrahamic religious tradition, God is almost always universally seen as infallible. Ilyin wrote that it was the duty of mankind to restore God's truth through Christian fascism, and that the country destined to undertake this task is Russia. This is because of the previously mentioned concept of Russian backwardness. Ilyin wrote that Russian backwardness or Russian lawlessness was in fact a blessing. Things like rule of law, state accountability were in fact rationalities and passions that drove people away from God. They were symptoms of a Western degeneracy, and through not having these modern political concepts.
RC made a video about propaganda in Russian schools. That'd be good to watch. This man straight up said humanity was a mistake. Yeah. Recently in the school for like 8-year-olds in Russia, books are saying they should give their lives for the motherland. Oh my god, that's horrible. But it doesn't really surprise me. I don't know about you guys, but this I'm kind of shocked, but not really that much. Russia. It's Russia, you know. That's why they do.
Of their society, Russia was in fact a blessed and fundamentally innocent nation, the nation that was closest to God. So to summarize, Ilyin believed that Russian lawlessness was in fact a blessing.
If only the Mongols held on to power longer.
Eternal
I know.
Russian innocence is also a core element.
Or I know, maybe they could have become worse.
Being blessed by God was an eternally innocent nation. No crimes and no wrong could ever be committed in the name of Russia, because Russia is the nation of God. It is the duty of all Russians to never question Russia or its leader, and to unconditionally worship.
There we go. That's why Putin loves this guy. That's why he loves him. I was a little bit like shocked. Why is Putin supporting like a little fascist? But there we go. That's it. He's all about, you know, Russia is the nation of God, and nothing bad happens to Russia. Russia never does something bad. It all makes sense, guys. It all clicks. My country's favored by God. Insert Buzz Lightyear meme.
Flaws are in fact.
Oh yeah, and like 1,000 countries saying the exact same thing. My country's favored by God.
All that Russia does must always be an act of righteousness, as Ilyin said, and Putin recently quoted: "If I consider Russia my motherland, that means that I love as a Russian, contemplate and think, sing and speak as a Russian, that I believe in the spiritual strength of the Russian people."
Aren't like Russians, I mean, not to start picking about this guy's quote, but aren't like Russians known to be like very cold? Aren't Russians like actually very bad lovers? Like Russian men particularly being like abusers and all that, and like very cold? You know, a lot of people like Russian women, but it's just like a looks thing. I don't think they are great partners or great lovers either. So, I don't know. It's kind of a weird quote, not gonna lie. I wouldn't want to love as a Russian.
Destiny, its suffering is my grief, and its prosperity is my joy. Because of this, the communist revolution was not a Russian evil. Ilyin wrote that communism was merely the ultimate expression of Western degeneracy.
Oh, one German guy
still remained innocent, and that Western Jews and communists had deliberately targeted Russia in an attempt to destroy its innocence.
Western Jews? Didn't Russia have like a lot of Jews?
This
I
message,
don't get it.
by the way, is reflected in that 2017 Netflix series about Trotsky. The Soviet victory over German Nazism was
I'm gonna use a VPN to like go to Netflix Russia and watch that series. It sounds interesting. I can't deny it.
ultimately evidence of a superior Russian spirituality, and Russia would be destined to resurrect from the ashes
So yeah, it's just another guy saying, "Hey, Russia is superior."
communism for an act of righteous mass violence that would destroy the West and restore the order of God.
That
Mass violence
didn't happen.
and lawless violence also play a prominent role in Eline's writings. Eline saw violence, when committed in the name of Russia, as the ultimate good, an act of sacred redemption that would restore the order of God. Lawlessness,
you're
in Eline's
right.
view, was a necessary.
I mean, who expects men to not be abusive in Russia, the country with a severe alcohol addiction? You got a point there.
To enable this excess of sacred
So,
violence.
who
Eline
would
also
want to
always
love
brought
like
any
Russian?
mention of Ukrainians,
Remember that they
Georgians,
kind of
and other
decriminalized domestic
nationalities of the
violence.
Russian Empire.
That's true, and I think what's interesting. I think Kraut deleted that video, and someone in the comments said something like, "Please don't delete your reaction because that's like the only or one of the few copies of that video," and that's why the video is still up. I don't know why Kraut deleted that video. That was, I think, one of his best videos and one of the ones that really shook me the most and really gave me introspection into the Russian world and what women. We were just watching the things that are happening in Iran, but what's happening in Russia with women and abuse is terrible. He did. Yeah, Russia will help God make a comeback. Yeah, say that to East Germany. I know, right?
Quotes. This is because he believed that these were only subnationals,
Ukrainians,
or parts
Georgians.
without any true difference to the larger Russian body national. He called them a fraternal people in God. And any mentioning of Ukraine as a separate national or cultural
It's not like a
construct or
thing.
identity that could act independently of Russia was to be seen as treason against Russia and severely punished.
There we go.
Eline also
There we
advocated for
fucking go.
inequality. He wrote that the middle classes were the most lowly of all social classes. That is because the middle classes were a symbol of social mobility. And in the one true godly order of good, a society should not have any social mobility. The middle classes ought to be trampled upon, eradicated and destroyed. The ideal citizen of a society was one with no aspirations for social advancement in class or identity, but a vast mass of uneducated peasants obedient to the leader of Russia. Inequality was God.
Bruh. I don't have anything to say. Wait, what video was deleted? Yeah, the one about Russia's like abuse, or the one about Russia's like abuse problem. It's unlisted. It sort of ties into some drama he doesn't want his channel tied to. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for the insight, but basically a caste system. Yeah, a Christian version of a caste system. Basically, don't have aspirations, don't have motivation, don't be middle class, right? Either you're rich, you know, like the 1% of the population, or you're poor. What? I mean, well, he's very right wing, so.
On social status were rebellion against.
Damn, that's really
Therefore,
fucked up.
Society must be as static and ossified as possible.
Static?
The economy must be owned by
Why?
a small oligarchy, not for the purpose of innovation or economic
I
advancement.
mean, he's just straight up, yep, let the oligarchs be oligarchs. And again, another reason why Putin probably loves this guy. He has a lot of oligarch
Because
friends.
a small oligarchy would be easy to control by the leader and could therefore make the
Am I going to be banned in Russia? You know, I don't know. I do make a lot of anti-Putin comments. Maybe I'm already banned in Russia and I can travel. You know?
available to serve the leader in all ways.
Yeah, perpetual
The destruction of the
elitism.
middle
Wow, what a
class is
surprise.
also
I know.
intended to annihilate the idea of any and all political participation. Eline believed that politics ought to be destroyed for God's divine order to be restored. History must be ended. There were to be no political parties.
Then, remember when at the beginning of the video said that people don't really know much about this guy? I think I know why. Because he's basically saying or telling you that you should be poor, that you should have no political power, that it only matters if you're Russian and you love God. I mean, this guy's ideology is fucking horrible. It's horseshit. No wonder nobody knows about this guy. Thank God nobody knows about this guy. And even if they knew, they would fucking hate it. I don't want to be a peasant. I don't want to be a farmer. I want to have, political rights. So I don't know.
No parliament, no political.
I'm back. Hello, Turkov.
There should be annual
Missed ya, buddy.
elections, but with no secret ballot, publicly, with only the option of voting for the leader of Russia. In many ways, this ceremony would have been intended as a mockery of elections as carried out in democratic societies. Through the elections being neither open, fair, or in service of any political purpose, the participants essentially surrender
Be a
their
sheep
right
and
to
follow the
political
group, said this guy.
and renew
Yeah,
that
that's
surrender
basically what he's saying.
through this ritual. Eileen
And I think he got it completely wrong. That's not, in my opinion, in my, I guess, philosophical opinion, that's not how humans work. Some of the things that makes us humans are motivations, the will to protest injustice. Look how much we've moved or transitioned from well, not every country, but our instinct is to fight against injustice, not to just sit down and do nothing.
obsessed over the idea of a Russian redeemer,
Off
especially
topic,
after
but
the communist takeover.
Is eating frozen fruit with a spoon gross? For me, it's like a healthy popsicle. I don't think it's gross. I mean, it sounds like on paper a good idea. I've actually eaten frozen food, frozen strawberries. I guess this guy looks like yeah, he looks like Lenin, doesn't he? Like the same face, hair. Yeah, he does.
Russia. He prophesied that eventually, from the ashes of communism, a great and powerful
It's like fascist
Russian
Lenin.
man would emerge. This man would be masculine, powerful, dedicated to God, and in the words of Eileen, the living organ of Russia and the instrument of its self-redemption.
Yeah.
The great Russian
That's not
leader would
gross.
direct the sexual desires and passions.
He's
as well
the
as the
fascist
personalities
Lenin,
of the
I
Russian
have to say
population
that.
through his persona,
Thanks, guys.
and thereby cleanse Russia of sin. He would destroy rationality and factuality, restrain the passions of the Russian people, and banish the corruption of ideas and politics. It will be this great Russian leader's destiny to go to war against the West, to end its corruption and redeem it through bloodshed and sacred violence. Thereby,
What?
the great Russian leader
What the
will
fuck?
end history itself through the restoration of God's totality. This is an outline of what Eileen believed, and considering how often Putin cites Eileen, it can give you an idea of how the current Russian regime views itself. From the destruction of the middle class, the establishment of an oligarchy,
Yeah.
the belligerent militarism, the denial of cultural and national identities outside of those of Russian, and the destruction of
Can't be factually wrong if there are no facts. 10 out of 10 logic. If Lenin met this man, he'd be
politics with its
He'd
degradation,
backhand him silly.
self-humiliation. We find
I could see
Eileen
that.
reflected in many aspects of the Putin regime. I would argue
Yep.
the most
Yeah, so it's all about the propaganda in Russia. It's all love to the motherland, dying for the motherland. It's all about the oligarchy and having the Russians as tamed as possible. And you might even wonder if part of the alcoholic addiction or the alcoholism that's in Russia, is it maybe something that the government is doing to the people to tame them? Probably not entirely, but I do think that maybe it's an influence. Maybe the government in Russia keeps lower taxes for the alcohol or for, tobacco. I don't know. I think it's likely that they do keep it that way because they want Russians to drink and forget about their problems. I think Putin banned drinking in public, to be honest. Oh, really? Huh. Well, I guess my theory just got destroyed, but still.
important purpose Eileen served for the Putin regime, however, is the concept of eternal Russian innocence.
Eternal
Or
Russian
authoritarian
innocence.
movements.
I can't believe that Putin really tries to convince everyone that the invasion that he's committing is good. You know, it's good for Russia and the people, the Russians inside Ukraine. He said that he was only gonna do this military operation in Luhansk and Donbass, and he wants to annex more regions than just those. So I don't know, it's just bullshit. A Russian news presenter said a few months ago, if we were to have a nuclear war with the West, we Russians would go to heaven. What the fuck? The situation with vodka is complicated in Russia. I could see that.
Are built on a claim of their own innocence. They are good, cannot do wrong, and must always be an outsider.
This guy looks like Putin if Lenin had a baby.
Is always rejected. You can observe
right? That's actually pretty accurate, though. It does kind of look like Putin and Lenin.
Social media and watch them constantly.
I mean, pretty much every Russian autocrat looks exactly like this. Like this. What a pair.
For everything. Putin's Russia faced a problem in constructing its myth of national innocence, its communist historical legacy. When communism died, Russia could have honestly confronted that history, examined it through a process of self-reflection, and built a better historical understanding of themselves from there. Instead, Elin provided an excuse to continue a myth of a national innocence that rejected any and all self-reflection. When Elin was reburied in Russia, the presiding Orthodox priest called him a Chekist in the name of God. That statement is an absurdity.
Huh? Straight to heaven? Sounds like straight out of the Taliban World War II Japanese propaganda. I know, it sounds a lot of what a Japanese World War II would say.
It's not grounded in any sort of political or historical realities. The point here was to marry the new authoritarian rule of the right with the historical legacy of an authoritarian left, to make the communist heritage part and parcel of the new authoritarian right-wing state, and to avoid any serious self-reflection. As absurd and utterly confusing as modern Russia with its state propaganda that combines religious, czarist, communist and fascist symbols.
Bro, what the hell?
It serves a purpose of casting
Like,
Russia
seriously?
as an innocent nation at its core, where none of these are in any way contradictory. Ivan Ilyin is the most important political theorist shaping the ideological underpinning of the modern Russian state of Vladimir Putin. But there are other political theorists who have influence over the politics of the modern Russian regime. After Ivan Ilyin, one of the most important among them would be Lev Gumilev. Lev Gumilev was a Soviet intellectual who wrote during...
Oh my god, I just had the funniest thought ever. Put this video to Sending the Clowns. It'll just be gravy.
the second half of the 20th century. He attempted to explain the presence of communism in the Eastern Bloc as opposed to the West through the means of geography, climatology, anthropology, and
I love how Albania is only like partially communist. Wasn't like Albania super pro-Chinese, and they either supported Maoism or just like the communist or socialist style they had in China. I like that, you know, I like that detail that they were like, okay, Albania kind of communist, but not really, not entirely.
West, through the means of
also off topic, but isn't it crazy that China was a monarchy for 3,000 years? Straight minus the civil wars. It is pretty crazy though. I have to think about it. Albania, no Russian, just China. Yeah.
They initially saw themselves as tasked with overcoming it, but they failed at that task. So instead of confronting its legacies and institutions, the Soviets came up with a different idea. The crafting of a new narrative of political history. We are no longer the backward ones. We may have once been backward, but now in fact, you in the West are the backward ones. Through the guidance of Marxism, we have leapfrogged ahead of you, and we will eventually guide you into that progress. Lev Gumilev was one of the Soviet intellectuals
Remember, no Russian.
Narratives of history
Albania, no Russian, just China. Remember, no Russian.
His political innovation was to rebrand Eurasianism, a traditionally right-wing position, as part of the Marxist political canon. He described the separation of East and West as a phenomenon created by geography, climate, astrology, Mongols, and Jewish conspiracies.
Is this gonna be like some sort of racism, like pro-Slavic? Well, maybe. Let's watch.
He claimed that by having access to the world's oceans, the peoples of the West, be they British, Scandinavians, Dutch, French, Iberian, or American, had lost their societal and cultural connection to land.
And Yugoslavia was a socialist republic, but they were anti-Soviet. See, I remember watching like a TikTok or something about the leader of Yugoslavia, like threatening Stalin or something like that. In Tito's, yeah, that's his name, Tito's. A friend of mine was from Bulgaria. He said that his parents during the communist era had to dedicate everything to the party. Poetry, art, and so on had to be about the Communist Party. What's sad? Well, that's so sad. I'm more interested on Tito's interpretation of communism than Stalin's. The guy looks like my grandpa. I'm not even joking. I know, he looks like my grandpa too. That's so funny. He looks like everyone's grandpa. Feelings don't care about your fact, Ivan. Yugoslavia should be back.
Working their land
I don't know if Yugoslavia should be back though.
Of the sea,
they hate each other.
The oceans and trade. They thereby surrendered their deep-rooted traditions and cultures that tied them to land in favor of capitalism and a politics of individuality and selfishness.
Okay, so we first had a fascist. Now we have, what, a communist? That's interesting.
Remaining landlocked were people of the soil. Through never developing a
people of the
merchant-class
soil
bourgeoisie or an industrial proletariat, the Russians remained a nation of peasants, a people who worked their lands and
people of the soil.
Gumilev claimed that through being forbidden to ever leave, these peasants developed a communal culture that tied them deeper and more consciously to their land. By these means, they were never corrupted by capitalist ideas that had corrupted the West, and remained a people.
East Germany should be back. No, you did not say that. Oh my God.
To the soil they lived on.
There's gonna be
fire. It has to be pointed out that Gumilev and his writings are anti-Semitic and are an expression of the often ignored Marxist anti-Semitism. He described the Jews.
Wow, there was Marxist anti-Semitism? Gotta feel bad about the Jews, man. The right wing, the left wing, they had no place in some of these places. Bulgar, we want two Germanys. Bulgaria also have a strange origin. Oh my God, if we bring back East Germany, we bring back Vichy France. Oh shit. Oh my God.
As an inherently landless
not gonna comment. No comments.
No conception of a connection in tradition and culture to land or soil, nor an idea of tradition of manual labor in agriculture on land or soil, developed an inherently parasitic culture and politics.
Oh, okay. I remember reading that some in Bosnia, Croatia, and Slovenia have a nostalgia for the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I love Germany so much, I want two of them.
Of feeding off and manipulating other peoples. Gumilev claimed that the Jews had
Prussia, bring Prussia back.
The Mongols into conquering and oppressing the Slavic peoples, so that the Jews could then parasitically feed off the Slavic peasantry.
Slovenians love Austria. I don't know if I've said this many times, but I do have some Slovenian ancestry, so I love everything relating to Slovenia. And if Slovenians love Austria, then I love Austria too, damn it. Even though they try to put their emperor in us.
Such as in alcohol. It should be pointed out, if it wasn't
I live in Occitania and
that this is completely false ahistorical nonsense. In part, this claim by Gumilev draws on the anti-Semitic publication On the Jewish Question by Karl Marx, which describes Judaism as a religion that merely provides some spiritual wishy-washy justification to what is actually a material practice by the Jews of being money hoarders and schemers. It is in fact often forgotten today that Marx reinforced the anti-Semitic stereotype of the Jews as money hoarders and manipulators. From the perspective of Soviet Marxist scholars.
Wow. That was pretty strong language. I actually did not knew that Marx was anti-Semitic, or that. Wow, I don't know. That was nasty. My German friend said Germany and Austria should unite. Thomas said yes. I don't know, man. Maybe some of us have PTSD from the last time they united. Man, not a lot of person like those poor Jews.
Jews were a group of people who
Karl Marx also supported gun rights. LOL. That's funny though.
Difficult for Jews to develop
with the irony.
Class consciousness. Because of this, Jews were categorized in the Soviet Union as a special nationality group and were often surveilled and treated with suspicion across communism.
Wow. I do feel bad for Jewish people. Like, imagine all of this for a few decades being mistreated, and then World War II happens and you are, just gone. So can you give them a break? And now everything that's happening, I'm sure you guys heard about all the Kanye West comments about Jews, the Jewish people, the Jewish community. I mean, that's fucked up. And there were some people in like the United States who were really supporting those comments. So yeah, can you give them a break? I don't know.
Countries. The communists believed that they had to break a Jewish ethnic consciousness to replace it with a class consciousness. You can see this attitude towards Jews as inherently part yet apart, reflected in modern Russia to this day, where Jews are often described and shown as both part of society but also different and separate from society. It is also reflected among a certain type of modern Marxist in our day and age who believe they have the authority to select and categorize Jews as either good Jews with class consciousness and bad Jews.
Horst Racer has been. Let it rest from the retirement from the world stage. That's so true.
Gumilev is very much in line with these
I would be against the German-Austrian Union, but I think the Austrian constitution banned it. Huh. And it's interesting. Isn't like Bavaria very similar to Austria? I mean, I could see it. I could see a German-Austrian union, but I don't think, like, let alone Austria. Like, imagine the rest of the world's reactions. World War II is like relatively fresh. Like, it happened not that long ago. It's like that would get a lot of people, especially in Europe, scared. That Germany is already the most powerful or like the biggest country in Europe, and they're gonna get like more power. I think that would scare a lot of people in the international community. Yes, Bavarians speak a similar dialect to Austrians. I don't think the Austrians want to be German. I don't know. I mean, it makes some sense.
Very popular in
I don't blame them if they want to be together. They are Germans at the end of the day.
Evoked this idea in his own writings about Russian Jews. Gumilev also based much of his ideas on interpretations
Gumilev, that's a funny name.
He used meteorological statistics and temperature measurements to draw a line straight across Europe that conveniently went straight through the border of West and East Germany, and claimed that because of the colder temperatures east of that line, Siberia began in Germany. East of that line, he claimed winters were colder, peasants had to work harder, agriculture was more widespread, therefore peasant culture prevailed, storage economies were more necessary, and because of these supposedly geographic factors, these places had an easier...
Austrians do not see themselves as Germans, really. I mean... Of course, now it's hard because we see Germans as people from the country Germany, and we don't see them as a people's group, which maybe it's good, but that's surprising. I thought that Austrians would see themselves as German. I mean, they saw themselves as Germans a few decades ago, so I don't know.
Start into communism.
Austrians are artists, LOL.
More comfortable lives,
oh God, no,
harvests,
please no.
Access to the seas, and
they used to until World War II. Okay.
This is also nonsense.
That makes sense.
Famines were widespread and regular all across Europe before the Columbian Exchange brought potatoes, maize, and corn. But also, if you look at European meteorological data, you will realize that by the standards of Gumilev, you can pretty much draw the borders of his imagined Siberia everywhere. You can just as well declare Norway, Iceland, and Switzerland to be part of Siberia by his imagined geographic standards.
And it's
Gumilev's
imagined.
final contribution to the rebranding of Eurasianism didn't come from ripping measurements out of any scientific field like geography, but from a weird
astrology
writings about astrology.
What?
He claimed that the success or failure of a civilization depended on cosmic energy emitted from the sun. That once every few centuries, the sun emitted a burst of energy.
I mean, it'd be so funny to see Vladimir Putin believing in astrology. It'd be hilarious, dude. Another friend I used to know was Spanish, and I quote him saying Franco was based. Wow. I think you need to stop being friends with that guy.
Earth and energize a people into greatness. The cosmic rays that had invigorated European
For real, this video is going over my mind, just saying.
During the Roman age. Europe's cosmic energy was therefore decaying and spent. The West was therefore a dying civilization that had run out of cosmic energy. But the Russians had not received but inherited the cosmic rays and energy of the Mongols, who being conquered and mixed with the Mongols. Therefore, the
Cosmic
Russians were
rays,
the youngest and most cosmically energetic of all
Oh my god. I mean, I thought the last guy was crazy, but this guy is just fucking nuts. He's not making any sense at all. I mean, neither did the previous guy, but yeah, a lot of Spaniards are nostalgic about Franco. I think especially like the older generation do really miss those days of Francisco Franco. But I don't know. I think young people of Spain are pretty liberal. This astrologic thing is so dumb. I want to believe it. It's still weird that to me Spain was fascist until like the 70s. I know, it's pretty crazy though.
And it was with this
Spain was fascist not that long ago, like what, 50 years ago.
The world.
That's crazy though. That's a crazy thought.
Snyder described his summarized theories. Gumilev believed that it was Russia's destiny as a civilization to conquer the West and turn it into Mongolia. If you ever heard Marxists ramble about Eurasian civilization or the Mongolian civilizational mission of Marxism, as mad as these ramblings...
Well, guys, you're now Mongolia, I guess. What the fuck? Why Mongolia? Well, Eurasian civilization.
Political theories written by a Marxist thinker, namely Lev Gumilev. Gumilev's rebranding of Eurasianism made it part of the Soviet Marxist canon. It is the reason why you find Eurasianism.
Young Spaniards who come to my high school used to song fascist song for fun. Wow. Wow, that's actually pretty... I mean, well, obviously fucked up. It was never as bad as the Nazis, but yes, it was still fascism.
The Russian lawlessness was rebranded as a Russian progress, or as a means by which Russia was uniquely able in the world to advance communism by overcoming others. As a result, you still have Marxists today who argue in defense of Russia under the Putin regime, even though it has little to do with Marxism.
Yeah, with Marxism itself.
Gumilev provided Marxists with a rebranded, enlightened nationalism of sorts. The idea of Russia's unique position
this guy is so mad, though.
Civilizational mission in destroying Western capitalism.
Oh, I'm off to learn Mongolian.
Placed a central role in
this is why I say that the wizards shouldn't go into politics. Always ends up crazy. Talking about Russia and wizards.
Celebrated by the Putin regime. Putin has stated that he believes in Gumilev's theories, and that Gumilev's writings are the foundation of how he views geopolitics. Gumilev's Eurasianism is Putin's Eurasianism, minus the Marxism. In internal politics, how he views the role of state, society, politics, and Russia's role, Putin still relies heavily on Ivan Ilyin. But on foreign policy, and what Russia's role in the world ought to be, Gumilev plays a significant role. In some ways, Putin combines the ideas of
Rasputin, Russia's biggest love machine. Laura the Russian Queen too.
Influential thinker whose influence can be seen.
Merlin was good in politics, though.
In its preservation of lawlessness. This one, however, isn't Russian, but German. Carl Schmitt. Carl Schmitt was a Nazi law professor, became the chief legal theorist of the Nazi.
Okay, so at first we had a fascist, and now we have just a straight up Nazi, which is a fascist too, but German, come on.
The German state provided the legal justification and framework.
This is painful.
Hitler's seizure of absolute dictatorial powers, was instrumental in creating the legal framework and theories of the Nazi state, and after the Second World War, Schmitt remained an unrepentant Nazi, a committed fascist and vicious
committed fascist.
This barred him from any work in Germany.
So two fascists.
As a law professor at a university.
Should we say just straight up Putin is fascist or has fascist tendencies? I don't know.
Franco's Spain, where he formulated more theories. Carl Schmitt's influence, specifically the influence of his writings, is far more widespread than many first assume. To historians who study law or legal history, Carl Schmitt is sort of an unwelcome ghost of sorts, or a kind of potentate of doom. His writings always creep up and appear among politicians when something really bad is about to happen. The most infamous example is that Carl Schmitt's legal theories can be found in the constitution that Pinochet forced on Chile. Carl Schmitt's theories in geopolitics can also be found, reflected, and discussed in the School of International
Not
Relations.
based, Chile.
Not just popular in the far right, his theories have also been repeated and used in the far left. You will, for example, find the influence of Carl Schmitt's
I think
work
Putin
in the
is
writings
nationalist,
of
but not
Michel
fascist
Foucault.
yet. Yeah,
His legal
he's
theories are
committed
also
and professional
frequently
fascist,
discussed as a
not a
negative
part-time
example to
fascist. Yeah.
criticize Richard Nixon's Watergate scandal, Kissinger's foreign policy in South America and East Asia, and the War on Terror. Carl Schmitt's most influential
Putin used fascist rhetoric in order to legitimize his power.
Against parliamentary democracy, a liberal world order, popular sovereignty, and constitutional rule of law. Among these is
very
his
different
state
from the
theory
first guy.
of the state of emergency. During the chaos of the Weimar Republic, Schmitt proclaimed that rule of law was an unfit construct to provide security in times of crisis and therefore fostered insecurity. Therefore, it was an unfit construct to govern a society in general. The liberal order of a state, through rule of law and accountability, is according to him too weak to preserve
Pinochet was of Breton ancestry. Wow, I actually did not know that.
Is nothing more than struggles over
Is that an
power.
insult?
He invented the legal concept of a state of emergency, which you all are probably familiar with, but he expanded it from being a temporary state of affairs into being the permanent status quo of a state. He declared that sovereignty can only be achieved through ignoring law and the destruction of rule of law.
Ignoring just... okay, no, sorry. He's very similar to the first guy.
The state must place themselves above the law, act without the constraints of law, and be unshackled from any accountability to law to guarantee true sovereignty.
Am I somehow banned from commenting here? My comments don't seem to appear in chat. Welcome, I guess. No, man, you're not banned at all. I mean, I can see your comments. Well, your comment. This is the first time I see your comment, so I don't know.
In a state of exception. In the words of Schmitt,
okay, Mr. Palpatine.
Sovereignty is defined by he who decides the exceptions. The state ought to become a permanent state of emergency so that the leader can secure the state.
It's interesting how you can hear like him switching pages. Like he's just reading this at one go.
Schmitt's writings are known to have been read and appealed.
Yeah, maybe you had internet problems. Yeah, because we can all see your comment.
Who saw the state of Russia during the chaos of the Yeltsin?
Is it just me? No, he does actually look like... he does look like a young Palpatine. Well, young, right? Quote unquote.
Germany. Schmitt's writings.
I sent 4 long comments. Again, I can see your comment just fine. Sometimes I think YouTube bans some words. I haven't banned anything. I haven't banned anyone, just one person that was spamming. But I haven't banned any words or commenters or people. So I haven't banned you at all. So I don't know. Maybe it's just YouTube sometimes monitors some words. So I don't know. Maybe that's that. Maybe there's a letters. Yeah, probably. There's maybe a letters. I think there's actually like a limit for letters. I think it's like 200.
Russia as solutions to the chaos of Yeltsin. Ilyin may have provided a
Boris Yeltsin
and philosophical justification.
That was big chaos too. So yeah, I could see that.
State. Carl Schmitt provides a legal and political justification
for that fascist state
above the law and in preservation of Russia's lawlessness to ensure the very existence of Russia as a sovereign entity. It is very much of note how Ilyin and Schmitt...
Okay, what is Vladimir Putin gonna say about this guy? I mean, he just can't openly approve of him. Not only he's a fascist, but he's a Nazi. The Russians fought against the Nazis. I mean, they celebrate Victory Day every single year. I don't think... Well, let's see. Let's see. Oh God. Putin, I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire.
But ultimately, it is also not surprising.
You can really see where the Galactic Empire got its influence from. The Galactic Empire supported human supremacy.
Might is what makes right. The will to exercise power is what matters. And the restraints on power dictated by the liberal state are something to be destroyed.
He's staring at Alderaan after blowing it up.
As a different Nazi legal theorist, Hitler's personal lawyer,
Who is that
Hans
fool?
Frank, once said, Law is whatever serves the race.
Oh, wow.
Eileen viewed lawlessness almost like a religious blessing. Schmidt provided a secular justification for it.
I mean, why am
He
I
was in
shocked?
some
It's
sense
Nazis,
the
of
lawyer
course.
who abolished law. For political thinkers with an interest in unrestrained...
He and his close supporters are really anti-intellectual. It does seem like it. All right, basically, I think the Russian president doesn't actually believe in any of this, just borrows quotes. Maybe, but he does seem like he has grabbed some influences from them. Putin's mobilization efforts, 200,000 units ready with 1 million more on the way. Jesus Christ. In France, some fascist writers are still popular. Wow. I don't know how to feel about that. Damn, 200 units ready. Oh, that's gonna be bad.
Had a very seductive appeal. For those who see their society as threatened and believe an act of lawlessness and unrestrained power can save them, Schmidt has the greatest of appeals. Russia must have an absolute leader above the law because Russia is under threat from outside, and therefore Russia must have the absolute leader above the law or it will be demolished and cease to exist
by outsiders.
The dear leader above the law not only exists in Eileen's divine mission from God, but with Schmidt's theories, the leader above the law also exists to ensure that Russia can continue to exist despite its enemies. The sense of outside threat and outside enemies also plays a key role in the writings of Carl Schmitt's political ideas. He believed that all politics must always begin and be defined through identifying the enemy of the group. This is a direct attack.
He got too much war exhaustion in Hearts of Fire and 4. Okay, sorry for that joke.
There can be no such thing as compromise in Schmidt's politics. Society is in a constant struggle for power between groups and for the body national to be preserved.
Yeah, it's all about power, really.
Group. Besides serving the purpose of securing the state from any and all threats, the identifying and pursuit of an enemy also provides a foundation of common unity in struggle to the group that makes up the body national. Politics must be understood as war.
Ferdinand Dessalines, very, very fascist. He was a writer. His books are seen as classic French literature.
You can have disagreements with. Those who you have disagreements with are in fact your enemies. The enemy can only ever be an outsider, and you must rally.
The Russian war machine just isn't the old Soviet one. Yeah, absolutely true. Doesn't have to the infrastructure to keep going. Let's hope they can keep going.
These spheres of influence, which he called great spheres, are geopolitically dominated by a great power that dominates over the geographic landscape of that great sphere.
India, Russia,
the
USA,
mainly
China.
through the conquest and colonization of the Americas, managed to create the first true international order, in which the Western concept of the nation-state became the predominant global order. But the system of nation-states did not.
This man, a lawyer, is advocating for no laws. How funny and ironic, right? There were response videos to Kraut, and he admitted that he might have been wrong about how at least Eileen influences Vladimir. Oh, really? Wow. Experts on the Putin regime have dismissed the Eileen connection historically. He does like using this stuff as a backwards justification, though. Yeah, we could watch that response video. We could. If anyone has a name, we can watch it.
Continue to determine the political outcomes and course of the smaller nation states within their own great sphere. The politics and ideologies of these spheres are therefore irrelevant, in terms that the smaller nation states do not get to pick them. If a great sphere adheres to a certain ideology, it is because that great sphere has a great power with that ideology. Schmidt believed Eurasia was a great sphere with the great power of Russia.
Being Russia,
as a communist state, therefore gets to decide the politics and ideology of everyone in that great sphere, be it Poland, Belarus,
and then Putin
Finland, Kazakhstan.
Thinks he has a right to decide for Ukraine.
What the rulers of Warsaw, Kiev, Tallinn, or Helsinki want.
Kraut linked it on its community page. I agree with Romanesque. This was what I wrote and what didn't appear in chat. That's weird.
What the peoples of their countries want is irrelevant, because it must be
Vlad Vexler chat is the channel that responded. Okay, Vlad Vexler. Okay, let's Google that for a second. Vlad Vexler chat. Okay. There we go. I think this is the video, right? Yeah, in response to Kraut. Okay, let's save it.
So in the end, Moscow gets to decide for all of them. Carl Schmitt's writings on spheres of influence and great powers were not a defense of the communist Soviet Union. He was, after all, an unrepentant Nazi right up to his death in the 1980s.
Unrepentant.
No, his theory
wow, 1980s. Like, that's pretty old. I mean, he was one of the ones that lasted a while.
Attack on the liberal West, liberal democracy, and the idea of liberal universalism. Because at its
core... no. Putin also said years ago that Poland made Germany invade. Bro, blaming Poland for the German invasion.
This idea by Carl Schmitt...
Oh, God. I mean, for the love of logic, they brought back the commissary officer.
Component of the liberal framework. Specifically, he attacked the idea of there being an international law, which he described as little more than a thin veneer to disguise American imperialism.
It's ridiculous.
There cannot be a rules-based world order, let alone one based on liberal values, because there are no rules. Only geopolitical power and the exercising of that power through great powers and the global game of power dynamics. The liberal West cannot apply its values universally because this would lead to direct confrontation and war with those great powers who do not share its values. The liberal state must therefore compromise and accept that its values do not apply to all, and thereby surrender its liberal core claim to universality of values and thereby expose itself as a lie. According to Carl Schmitt, geopolitics and the politics of great powers will ultimately destroy the liberal West by forcing it into positions of hypocrisy. The more the liberal West will concede to other great powers,
I don't know, some of these people are just so weird.
The rule of law will be undermined and eroded by being increasingly exposed.
What would the future of Russia after the death of Putin, though?
Yeah, stage will lead to hypocrisy.
Depends on the successor,
stage, which will erode the foundation.
It could be very wild.
To defeat the West and its liberal order,
change the ideology or break up.
The whims of anti-democratic great powers.
I wish that Russia changes ideology. Russia could be part of the West. Russia is very European in most ways, so I don't know, for the Russian people to be sanctioned and suffering, it's just not fair for the Russian people, not the Russian government. So I hope that Russia in the future can integrate with the European Union even.
Within what Schmitt saw as their sphere.
It is European, yeah.
It is not difficult to see how this feels.
It has a lot of Asian influence, though. Central Asian influence.
It is not difficult to see how it appeals to both the anti-democratic left and the anti-democratic right.
Absorbing Russia by that logic.
Knowing that this is how those who rule Russia see the world, one can understand.
I know, it's terrible logic. That's true.
So much effort to ensure that Assad would step over Obama's infamous red line. The universal claim of a common humanity and rules-based order was surrendered in Syria and forced to not apply to Syrians in opposition to the regime of Bashar al-Assad. If the democratic ambitions of the Ukrainian people can also be crushed under a Russian boot, then not only does this mean that Ukraine must subordinate to the rules of a zero-sum power game, in which it is merely a chess piece played by the great power of Russia. No, it also means that the idealism of the West is at its core a lie and must be surrendered to rules of a game of power between great powers, in which nothing but the exercise of power matters. To Schmitt, an international set of rules or an idea of universal human rights and laws are little more than a disguise of American imperialism and power politics with the intention of destroying the sovereignty of other great powers. To Schmitt, both in internal politics and in international politics.
Yeah, that's true. Probably some censorship on YouTube's part. Like I said, I haven't banned any words. I don't even know if that's possible. So it's likely YouTube, and especially probably with the controversial stuff, I absolutely believe it. Any democratic government in Russia would need a majority success to convince the people that this was the better system. And that's going to be tough, because isn't Vladimir Putin actually quite popular amongst the Russian people?
Is the dynamics and exercising of
I don't know, man.
These are the three main political theorists who influenced Putin's vision for
Apparently
Russia.
so, as of now.
Is that much of this was very much in the open. As mentioned before, Putin was never quiet about his admiration of Ivan Ilyin. I'm also pretty sure that some of those in the audience who have read the books of Alexander Dugin had their jaws dropped.
Sorry.
Times. Let me explain to you and all those who have not read Dugin's books. Close to nothing that Dugin wrote is original. Almost everything in Dugin's books is just ripped from Ivan Ilyin, Lev Gumilev, and Carl Schmitt. In particular from Carl Schmitt. There's not a single
another
original
fascist
political theory in anything that Dugin has ever written.
leading to oligarchies, yeah. Claiming that people are not convinced that liberal democracy would work for them.
Market these ideas as his own. Dugin's role
Yeah,
in
popular,
Russia
yeah,
is
yeah,
vastly
popular.
overestimated in the
That's
West.
what I meant.
He is not the Kremlin whisperer, as some may say. Putin cites Ilyin and not Dugin. Dugin is merely a sort of brand manager and marketer, something Russians call a political technologist. I like to think of Dugin as more of a useful bigot. His English translator was the wife of the American fascist Richard Spencer, and Dugin has ties to various European fascist circles, from the late French-Romanian fascist Pavlescu, who was one of the founding thinkers behind Generation Identity, to the Canadian fascist Lawrence Southern, to many others. I believe the reason he is prominent in the West is because the Russian regime would like him to be prominent in the West, as a salesman of the ideas behind Russia's new fascism. In Russia itself, Dugin only has a minuscule political role, if any at all, which is why, rather than calling him the Kremlin whisperer, I prefer calling him the Kremlin's useful bigot. There's a final note I wish to give on all of this. The most baffling thing about all of this, to me, is how widely unnoticed it went. The Trotsky series
I love
from
the bird.
2017 is something that really catches my attention, and I'll get into why.
French
This series is
mentioned.
an overt
Wait,
piece of
what?
fascist cinema. There is absolutely no doubt about this. It depicts the Russian Revolution as inherently Jewish. It depicts the Jew, through the figure of Trotsky, as the grand schemer and shady manipulator of Lenin. The revolution is driven and manipulated from the shadows by the Jew Trotsky. The Jew Trotsky is responsible for the violence and terror of the revolution, and the Jew Trotsky creates Stalin as a sort of golem to help him in his shady schemes and acts of violence. The Jew Trotsky then loses control over his terrifying creation. The Russian Revolution is presented here as that time that the Jews were in charge of Russia, as a sort of Jewish mistake, and presented as something Russia had to redeem.
The Soviet Union was a Jewish mistake in this guy's mind.
Was a sort of Western degenerate idea that infected Russia, which was promoted and driven primarily by the schemes of Jews. And don't forget that this entire narrative of this film is told and presented from the imagined perspective of the fascist political theorist Ivan Ilyin. You really can't get more in-your-face fascist than that. This is fascist cinema. It belongs into the same category as the Goebbels film Yüzsüz and the KKK movie Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation was pretty hardcore.
Out to me so much.
Haven't actually watched it, but
that we just discussed,
I don't know, like you can watch it somewhere.
In which a postmodern cultural politics is very popular. The study of fascism through its history and its political theorists is widely discarded. I bet you most self-declared anti-fascists watching this video have in fact never even heard of Ivan Ilyin or Carl Schmitt.
Yeah, probably.
Instead, politics is increasingly understood as a process driven by art and culture, and therefore the study of movies and fiction, of artistic narratives, and the supposed hidden political meanings of them is emphasized. The study of politics has increasingly been surrendered to pop culture critics, literary critics, and artists, from Umberto Eco's famous list to Slavoj Zizek's interpretations of films, to also a countless series of essayists that you will also find here on YouTube. Throughout all of them, people will tell you how to recognize a fascist based on a set of aesthetics or pop culture phenomena, rather than based on the interpretation of any real political theory, text, or practice. And it is almost funny to me how you have this almost massive industry of sorts of pop culture critics and essayists, educated and specialized in art college, in how to find the hidden political meanings and the hidden fascisms within modern pop culture, and yet not a single one of them.
Not sure about Birth of a Nation, but you can watch Trotsky series online for free. Nice.
Universally
Actually, I'm interested.
that they claim to be their purpose of existing. The only people you will find who recognize this series for the piece of fascist cinema that it is are people whose background lies in history and political science. In particular, the historian Timothy Snyder has been sounding the alarm
road
bell
to
for years
unfreedom.
on the sinister implications of Putin's obsession with Ivan Ilyin, and was one of the few people who recognized this series for the piece of fascist cinema that it actually is. So one takeaway when it comes to the study of politics and history...
My mind is all over the place after watching this video. Yeah, I'm all over the place, especially now that you guys have told me that the whole Ivan Ilyin thing is not very accurate and that someone responded. I'm like, I don't know what to think anymore. I mean, it does make sense that he has quoted them, and some of its ideology made sense with some of what Putin seems to think, but apparently it's not entirely accurate. And we're going to hear the other side of the story.
And political science.
Yeah, me too. It's like, wow.
Pop culture critics.
It's like too much, man. Jesus.
I would, however, also blame a willful, widespread ignorance, especially where I live in Europe.
Oh.
Cultural politics may be more of an American problem, but it cannot be denied that many European advocates...
I don't know. I feel like Kraut needs to do another series like the one he did on Mexico, the one he did on Turkey. I think he needs to find a country and just do some 3-part video on it. Maybe the USA, maybe Germany itself, maybe China. I don't know. There's so many interesting countries out there. And this topic, I think it's interesting and important, but I think the video is a little long. I don't know.
State of self-denial over the direction.
Plus, my ass hurts because I've been seated so long.
Western European policy towards Russia
So, you know,
was dominated by assumptions of an inevitable democratization of Russia. All the Putin regime
inevitable, yeah.
just criminal excesses that would fade away with the eventual demise of Putin.
I think he said the Netherlands is next. What?
Was relevant because the neoliberal economics of
I know, if it's gonna be one video
class,
series.
Consequently, democracy in Russia.
I mean, that's cool. The Netherlands sounds interesting. Maybe not my first guess, but
foreign policy approaches in recent history. I am certain that a few years from now, Schröder's and Merkel's approach to Russia will be remembered in the same way as
appeasement.
Appeasement
Okay, I think that's a little bit of an overreaction, you know. But I kind of see it. But I don't know. Again, I feel it's kind of an overreaction. Go make yourself something nice to eat after. Oh, definitely will, my friend. All I got for this video was play Fallout New Vegas. I haven't played that game, so I honestly have no idea,
It is
bro.
almost a symbol of an enormous problem in modern European foreign policy. We
But yeah,
Europeans
that's
like to
true.
arrogantly point at the Americans as supposed enablers of foreign dictatorships and go very silent when we are asked how French Mirage fighter jets ended up in the hands of Saddam Hussein and apartheid South Africa, where they were used to bomb
Hey, the
villages
French were
and
mentioned again, bro.
villages. How Pinochet used helicopters that he bought from Germany to murder dissidents. Or that throughout the 2000s, Italy sold billions of modern weapons.
That could be very interesting. I hope the Netherlands series is about the East India Company and early modern capitalism.
Systems for tanks to the Syrian Assad regime, where they were used against the Syrian people. Or that the French were actually just about to sell an amphibious
Oh,
assault
there's the French
to
again.
Russia right up to 2014. The majority of my subscribers and audience are European, and I really want to hammer this point in, especially to you. Our foreign policy towards dictatorships, especially in Western Europe, is dangerous and hypocritical. We have a long tradition of stupid European foreign policy regarding this. Capitalism and market integration are not some magical potion that will create democratic institutions out of thin air, especially if you sell weapons to dictators.
I think Russia is the greatest example that market integration is really not gonna unite the whole world into global peace. You know, war could happen. In fact, we are probably closer to the Third World War than ever before, other than like the missile crisis of Cuba or like something like some era in the Cold War. But outside the Cold War, right now, we are close to World War III than ever before. I wonder how this era in our history will be looked back on in, say, 300 years. It will be interesting.
The German practice of buying Russian
I don't know, the Chinese era or the post-American century.
A consequent degrading of the last remaining democratic institutions of Russia. There's this funny incident from a few years ago, which I believe is very symbolic of Western
Weil Russlands Außenminister die Welt sein.
Russia. That was when the Russian foreign minister Lavrov visited Germany.
I think it would remind it like the mid-19th century to us. Could be
the German reunification
an era of a lot of revolution
was
and
actually illegal and should not have happened. Everyone in the
Wait, what?
audience at some gathering, and in that speech said that the German reunification of West and East Germany was actually illegal and should not have happened.
German
Everyone in the
unification
audience
was
thought, "Oh,
illegal."
yeah, what a funny joke, the funny Russian man. But barely anyone noticed that Lavrov
He was
not
serious.
laughing. He was being serious. This is what his
Bruh.
government actually believes. And when someone tells you who they are, it is
That
best for you to
pronunciation,
listen
terrible,
rather
I
than
know.
arrogantly presume the right to interpret who they are for them. Because if you do that, in the end, you will only lie to yourself. And this is a very valuable lesson that I hope we now learn as a result of recent events. A Russian friend of mine who really wanted me to make this video and sent me screen caps of Eileen in her university textbooks insisted
Wow.
that I should not
On her
have
textbooks.
that, but asked me instead to promote her favorite LGBT charity that helps gay, lesbian and trans Russians who, as you can probably guess, live rather difficult lives in Russia. You
I
will
would
find a
imagine
link
so.
to it in the description. If you enjoyed this video,
Looks like they
don't forget
never
to like and
sleep.
share it. You can support my channel through Patreon, channel membership, or a donation. And I hope to see you soon.
Wow, my God, I don't know. I feel like my brain is just tired. You know, I just wanna mentally just shut down and sleep. My message don't show in the chat forbid us to trade weapons on and then build Nord Stream. I don't know what's going on with YouTube, guys. I swear to God, I haven't done anything. My messages don't show in the chat. I don't know, man. I mean, Germany does buy a lot of energy from Russia, but I think they have not a lot of choices when it comes to energy. You know, Germany is a massive country that needs a lot of energy. And Russia is close, you know, Russia is pretty close. I know. Most fear the rise of regime control leading to democracies feeling like they have to resort to extremism to combat it. That would make sense. What about nuclear? I mean, nuclear, it is a real option for Germany, but at the same time, like, look what happened at Chernobyl, look what happened in Japan, Fukushima. So I think there has been a lot of nuclear accidents, or well, not a lot, but the necessary. Now imagine on a place that's like very densely populated. Germany has a lot of big cities. Like, you can't have a Chernobyl in the middle of Germany. That's just like not an option. So I'll do get your point that maybe Germany could have some options. I don't think they have a lot. And the cheapest, safest at the time maybe was Russia. They didn't make the greatest choice. In fact, they doomed themselves to have this winter be cold. But at the time, it seems like a rational decision. Germany needs to invent that fusion reactor. They do need. We can food that for all energy resources. Germany said the last reactors will shut down in April next year. Yeah, maybe they shouldn't do that. Just saying, you know. All right, let's watch this video. The ideology of Putin's Russia, reaction to Kraut. This video has over 100,000 views. So that's pretty interesting. I think people overreact to nuclear reactors. I think they do, but you know, the Germans are being overly cautious, you know? I think that's the thing. They are being overly cautious and avoiding nuclear energy because there could be an accident. And while it might be a little silly to us imagine a nuclear accident happening near a massive German city, you know? It's just, I don't know, I get their fear. German energy pricing systems mean that expensive nuclear energy makes all energy more expensive. It's weird. Get it? Overreact. I actually did not got it the first time. As long as Germany doesn't build nuclears in the middle of a tornado zone, prone zone, they should be fine. They should be fine, but who knows? You know, Fukushima was what? Because of a tsunami? So yeah, they should avoid it building in a risky area. Maybe you guys are right. I don't know. Let's watch this video, right?
To this conversation about the ideological underpinnings of the Putin regime. Here is what happened. Many of you have emailed, written in, wrote comments, sent pigeons, asking me to have a look at a
pigeons.
video on the ideology of the Putin regime by Krauts and give my reaction, particularly on Krauts' commentary on the link between Ivan Ilyin.
I am right now doing a reaction to a reaction. That's pretty interesting. I think nuclear reactors, if handled correctly, can be very good. But that's the thing, right? Handled correctly. At the end of the day, as smart as you are, as I'm sure my uncle is a nuclear engineer and he's like extremely smart. And he was the first to tell me that, you know, human accidents happen all the time. And when you have that in a nuclear reactor, that could be a problem. I don't know. It's just, I get that nuclear energy could be the future in some ways because it's cheaper than some of the green energy depending on where you live. But I don't know, it just doesn't convince me. German nuclear engineers are old and retiring. There are no replacements. Plus, you know, there's always the risk. Yeah, that's absolutely true. The problem is that Germany isn't that sunny. Windmills are much better, but a lot of German industry is based in manufacturing cars. That's true, though. They do need a lot of energy. German nuclear engineers are old. That's also, I could imagine that, you know, because they've changed their focus to other types of energy. Like Nord Stream, which, yeah, was bad, but, you know, how we would have known.
Putinism. And here is what I said before I watched Krauts' video, which I've just finished watching. And I said this in the comments.
He has a piano and a bunch of books. That's how I imagine a philosopher living.
I'm going to make time to see it soon, but I'm 95% sure that my
German solar plants in the south are actually profitable.
Putin doesn't really read these people properly. He takes quotes, he's given quotes, he's completely uninterested in how any of these people's ideas shape up overall. His relationship with all these texts is pop and superficial. The Putin regime, this is the second point, is not a regime of ideas. His attitude to all these texts is extractive. These ideas are not used by, but exploited. There is no thinker who Putin is in any significant way following.
Okay.
So what's my reaction?
Yeah, and that's where some of the things that we commented at the beginning, he was like, well, maybe it's just that he's quoting the guy and not so much following their lead or following their philosophy, right? And it is, I thought it was kind of funny that there was two fascists and one communist or one socialist, right? Like, that's a little strange of a combination to me or to anyone. So, you know, let's be open about it. I think Germany underestimates how quickly Russia became aggressive. Yeah, especially under the same guy who was friendly.
Having watched Krauts' video. Now, I just want to acknowledge that writing and producing a video essay on YouTube is a craft of its own kind.
Yeah, it is.
It's actually different to anything else.
It's very hard. The way that Kraut produces his videos, like no shit, he takes so much to produce a video. And just imagine like drawing, you know, its own art, country balls. I know that there are some like artists that he's mentioned before that he gets help from, but still, it's very hard writing, researching, producing, recording your voice. It's something that I could not do. It's just too complicated. So let's give Kraut let's cut him some slack, you know?
Coercive genre
I've seen this video before. It's quite fascinating.
I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge Kraut. I don't know whether you go by Kraut or whether you go by your name on YouTube.
Yeah, let's say Kraut.
I want to acknowledge Kraut for producing this essay. I know just how much it takes to come up with that. It's an extraordinary amount of work. And anybody who does that sort of thing, and on the basis of this video I've watched, does it responsibly, is of course my brother on this platform. So
wholesome,
Let's know
nice.
a couple of quick things about Krauts' video and then discuss the main thing I want to focus on, which is this conversation about linking Ilyin to Putin. The first thing is Krauts' treatment of Alexander Dugin. And I think Krauts basically right on the money here.
Okay.
There's a tendency to
So he just
overestimate
like,
Putin in the West. And in fact, much of Dugin's influence inside Russia,
yeah, and he makes a video
works
like
in a
every
very
month.
peculiar
Yeah.
way. They try to leverage
He's a hustler.
the myth of Dugin's importance.
He
in the
really
West,
likes his work, or
and
he
then,
must.
import it back into Russia. So it's completely correct to say that beyond Dugin's own aspirations, he has no political
Voice
significance in Russia.
or significance, all right.
To dispel all of these stories about how he is Putin's brain. The group that Dugin represents has increased in its political significance now.
In Russia or like in the
Turner
West?
Patriot group, as they're called.
Because Kraut mentioned some of the people that are very like right-wing, like Lauren Southern or the wife of Richard Spencer, who in the US is like this huge like racist guy. So he's definitely associated himself with like some of the most right-wing people in the world. I mean, he's one step from the KKK. So I don't know.
But Dugin's own influence is limited, and his capacity to influence Putin directly is essentially at zero. Then there's something else that I've made a note of that Kraut says that I actually think is analytically and historically impeccable, or almost impeccable.
Oh, wow.
And Kraut says that a self-serving mafia state is compatible with an ideologically driven state. And I think that's absolutely right. In other words, I often like to say that if you want to understand what it's like to face the Putin regime, it's like finding that your local village priest is also the local village thief.
Okay.
However, what I recommend you put instead of ideology in that place is just some kind of a cart, shopping cart, with various kinds of snippets of civilizational visions, mystical visions, some certain kinds of superstitions and occultish thoughts that Putin has gathered. And I think we might say a bit more about why that's the sort of thing we want to put there alongside the quasi-mafia banditry quality of the regime, rather than ideology. But then the center of our reaction chat should be what Krauts says about Ilyin, because that's what you're asking about, and his influence on Putin. And Krauts says, and I've written down the quotes, Ilyin is an important ideological influence on Putin, one of the core influences of Putin's understanding of Russia, of politics, of Putin's political beliefs.
You know what? I think what happened with that video of Kraut, he just saw that Putin was quoting that guy, and he started researching the guy itself and found a lot of similarities between Putin's government and the guy's philosophies. Maybe that's what happened. Probably. I don't know. Let's hear his arguments.
I'm going to paraphrase to understand Putin. You've got to understand Ilyin. And last quote. Ivan Ilyin is the most important political theorist shaping the ideological underpinnings of the modern state of Vladimir Putin. Is this true? No, it's false. What kind of claim is it? It's a claim about psychological reality. It's a claim about what's in Putin's head. It's not a claim about how many times Putin mentions Ilyin, although that could, in an ill-advised way, be considered as evidence for Ilyin's influence. And it's not about the shape of the Russian state. It's about what's in Putin's head. Where do you start with this? Well, there are people who make that link in our culture. Perhaps the most prominent one who does that is Tim Snyder.
I don't know who that is. Sorry. I'm glad that there are responses. As much as I like Kraut, and Kraut acknowledges that he isn't the foremost expert who can spend years on each topic. Yeah, I like Kraut. Yeah, he's definitely open to criticism. And I honestly didn't watch his post or his community post where he mentions this guy in his response. Maybe I didn't saw it because I just didn't understood the context because of I didn't watch the video. But I like that he's open to criticism. I like that he might say, "Yeah, I'm wrong."
Neither is someone will talk
Very
about,
humble.
because I've had a video clip sent in to which I've promised to do a
Oh, really?
reaction.
Let's watch that at the
Where
end.
Snyder's interview, and he's talking about how Russia needs to reevaluate itself, its intellectual traditions. Snyder is special because he's got both an imagination
Yeah, the Nazi.
and a social conscience. That's a rare combination because the two often pull you in opposite directions. And Snyder has a voice of his own. He has depth as an historian.
The flag right next to me. I think you're talking about this, and it's Colombia. There we go, Colombia. There we go.
Wonderfully seductive capacity to
I have
teach.
Greece
Lectures
too.
on Ukraine that are now available on YouTube are marvelous.
It looks like Ukraine though. Yeah, if you take out the red, and because this panel is red, it mixes, you know, with the background, and I imagine the camera doesn't pick it up. But yeah,
But
it's Colombia.
Snyder's not an expert on the intricacies.
Yeah, exactly. The red is what
And
mixes.
I'm unimpressed with Snyder's link between Eileen and Putin.
It was a weird mix. Yeah, bringing up a Nazi.
And it's not the right place for me now to comment on how accurate Snyder's representations of Eileen himself are. So where do we go with this? Well, I think one place to go is to somebody who reads Eileen, who is an intellectual, who knew Putin quite well.
Slava Colombia.
One of the,
Gran Colombia. Let's bring back
political
that.
technologists behind early and mid-Putinism, and that's Gleb Pavlovsky. And Pavlovsky gets asked probably 25 times a year about the links between Eileen and Putin. And every time Pavlovsky dismisses them, laughs them off, and says that instead...
This Vlad Vexler guy is a good source about the internal political situation in Russia. Yeah, he looks like a very smart guy. I mean, at least he's giving that impression to me.
War fiction of Victor
Very
Suvorov.
calm, very collected,
And that's
very
much
cool.
more like it in my view.
Sorry for caps. Yeah.
Make guesses
No
about
worries,
what
my
we
friend.
can discover in the future about Putin's reading list and how much time he spent with which kind of book. And what does that say? I mean, that just says that I can't think of a single person who is, in an engaged way, experienced with the Putin regime who would sing siren songs about that connection between it.
A Latin American Union of Nations. I would love that, but I don't think Latin Americans are ready for that. You know, there's a lot of hate in between Latin American nations. There's a lot of inequality between Latin American nations. You know, you have Nicaragua or Honduras that are some of the poorest countries in the world. And then you have places like Chile or Uruguay or Panama, who are some of the wealthiest countries in the world. So I don't think that would really happen. Latin Americans don't really like each other, which is unfortunate because I love all Latin American countries, but I just think it would never happen. The governments are, although right now with Lula's victory in Brazil, now most Latin American governments are actually left-wing or left. So maybe, I don't know.
And Putin. Somebody else worth mentioning
He's
is
actually a Russian living in London.
Martinov, who is the editor-in-chief of Novaya Gazeta Europe, because he's a professional philosopher by training. And he is also asked 74,000 times a year.
That's a lot, 74,000. Putin.
And he wrote for the millionth time about this just a few days ago after Putin's speech, because Putin again mentioned
Eileen.
Here is what Martinov said. I'm going to translate it on the spot, so this is going to be slow. Putin ended his speech with a quote in passing from Ivan Ilyin, whom Nikita Mikhalkov once sold to Putin as a candidate for a good personal, for a favorite philosopher to have. In fact, Martynov writes, Ilyin has no influence on the ideological origins of Putinism.
Putinism,
If only
like that.
because Putin's rule is radically anti-intellectual. Putinism is radical anti-intellectualism.
Huh.
But I would recommend Putin.
What a surprise, right? Like,
to actually read.
he's very anti-intellectual.
And in particular, read Ilyin.
Although didn't Krauts
on
say
the
that?
resistance to evil by
That Putin
force,
goes like
in
very
which the philosopher
anti-intellectual
argues against
sometimes.
The pacifism of Leo Tolstoy. When evil comes to your house, you're forced to answer it. This is what Ukraine is teaching us now. And interestingly, during that speech, about which Martynov is writing here, Prokhanov asked a question. Prokhanov is somebody who is certainly in the liberal circles in Russia, is possibly more heard than Dugin, with a Duginite position similar to Dugin in many.
Okay.
So this is a guy who talks about the extraordinary spiritual beauty of the advancement of Russian tanks. He is in his mid-80s now. He was there and he asked Putin a question. He said,
just like
Mr.
Pol
Putin,
Pot. Juan, good to see you,
talk
my
about
man.
this special military operation, but in fact it seems to me that what's happening is that via our military operation, we are offering.
Sorry if you hear fireworks. I don't know what's going on.
Distinctly kind of Russian contribution to what justice is for human beings, that the world could absorb and learn from. And Putin immediately became allergic to this and said, made a joke. And his joke was, Mr. Prokhanov, I read you. He doesn't.
Do you take donations? Wow, thank you. I actually do. I think through the chat. I don't know how to do it, but I would really appreciate it. I don't know.
He says,
who you? Yeah, I don't think we've seen you in a stream, have we? Well, either way, you're very welcome. We always like having more people. We're actually, I think, between 17 and 19 people. So that's pretty great. That's actually a good number. And we had that number of people in the stream, but now we've had quite a lot. Nice to see you, Jorge. I hope you enjoyed Miami. I always enjoy Miami, my man. It's a great city to visit. The people are very nice. The weather is amazing when it's not raining or having hurricanes. I don't know how to access it. Well, I wish to tell you. I think there are some icons below the chat. One of it should be like a dollar sign. I don't think. I've been watching, but unable to comment. I'm working right now. Oh, shit. Well, appreciate that. That's a risky decision. If you are on PC, there's a money symbol, yeah, under the chat bar. But I don't know about phone. I think it should be the same. Well, thank you for being here, and I appreciate you watching me while working. That has to be... I guess it depends on when you work, but it's nice. My man was about to fall asleep and then heard about money. I wasn't about to sleep. I mean, I was very active. No, I'm tired, honestly. It's been a hard work. I had to work, and then I had to stream, you know, and my ass hurts. I'm tired, guys. I'm actually a little tired. Not gonna lie. But yeah, let's continue watching the video. If you can, that was so funny. By the way, you roasted the hell out of me, bro. If you can't access donations, that's fine. You know, no worries. I appreciate just the support. This is what I do for a hobby.
But we've had.
Damn, you're really gonna take that? On iPhone, it's not anywhere. I've been going for 3 hours. Yeah, I know. It's been tiring. I'm tired.
As a response, no.
Right next to the chat,
there is this kind of mystical civilizational turn that's very important to understand.
There has to be like some sort of dollar sign.
on that journey since about 2012, if not earlier. But I wouldn't call it an ideological journey. I would see it in a quite consumerist way. The Ukrainian philosopher Andrei Baumeister says that...
Yeah, because Putin and Putin's government didn't start like this, did it? I mean, it was more of a recent development. You had the, the war for Crimea, right? That sort of happened later, not earlier, although I think the war with Georgia happened earlier. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it was a transition for Putin. So that's why I think we can't really blame Germany for building Nord Stream with Russia when its government was very different from today to tomorrow.
As an extractive and exploitative political technology.
Sorry, from earlier years.
All ideas, including ideas he proclaims as supposedly his own. And I say that it's a consumerist relationship. It's a similar claim, that there's a kind of trolley. And Putin is going around with it. He sees this sort of occultish thing. He sees this kind of superstition.
Putin actually held speeches in the German parliament in German. Wow, in German? That's, yeah. You see, you can't blame Germany. Come on.
A man who is gathering stuff doesn't have an intellectual bone in his body, and that sort of plays a kind of role.
Yeah, let's think that Putin is, I mean, he's the president of a country. He's the leader. I know how to call him dictator of Russia. But either way, he has to have a huge press team, a huge marketing team that helps him with his speeches. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't write his own speeches, right? He doesn't, his social media posts, it's probably not him, right? He has a huge, and I know because my background is marketing. So I know what it takes to help a public figure, a big politician, to write speeches, to say the right thing. There goes a lot of work into politicians. When you see your president, your local senator, whatever, give a speech, that speech, like 99% sure, wasn't coming from the politician itself, but his PR team, right? His damage control team. So Putin, imagine how many people are behind him, writing his speeches, telling him what to say to not angry the media or the public of Russia, right? There's a lot of things going on. Most of this probably started in 2014, although I imagine it's been going since early 2000s. Yeah.
In the way he's thinking about.
When did Putin become president? Like 2001 or 1999? Some year along that, right?
Collective self-realization is now tied to his own, but it's not to his own destiny, his own biographical.
2000. Okay, got it.
That's short of saying, you see, that there is a important, significant connection there between Ilyin and Putin. It's just to say that certain things Ilyin absorbed from the culture and spat back out into the culture.
Putin even makes markets movements for Western countries to stay neutral and mind their own problems so he can take advantage of his plans.
Here we might
Yeah,
say something about
totally, absolutely.
the way ideas relate.
I mean, the
to
way he's
practice
controlling energy right now.
in general, and the way practice relates to ideas. It's not true that a philosopher comes up with an idea and then a culture either follows it or it doesn't. Not at all.
Yeah.
As the wonderful philosopher Charles Taylor likes to say, the causal arrow between practice and ideas goes in both directions. So when certain ideas about individual rights arise in the West, it's not that they're concocted in ivory towers and then they are released into the culture. It's rather that the thinkers...
The culture changes those ideas, right?
Are already in a sort of semi-expressed way present in the culture. They absorb these ideas. They intensify these ideas and spit them back out into the culture, which is interestingly why a lot of great thinkers are wrong, but deep.
I followed this Russian guy on YouTube. He was born in 1998 and said, I've known no other leader but Putin. Fled to Georgia in April. Wow, that's insane.
Imagine that we apply this to you.
Would you take a video recommendation for $5? Wow, thank you for the donation. Oh my God, I don't know what to say. I always get so... For right now, sure, I could do it. I could do it. I'm a little tired though. It depends on the length, honestly. I don't want to you to spend your money on something that I might not be able to stream or even do right now. But it depends on the video. Just let me know, like later after this video. Yeah, if you have the name of the video, that'd be great.
Visualize an ultimately just world, and surely that's got to be possible in principle, if not in practice. And actually, there's a lot of people who do say that under these videos, and women say that more often than men.
Women.
And imagine that on top of saying that, you say, "Oh, here's a quote."
Oh yeah, for another stream, yes, absolutely. For the next one.
Well, now what have we got?
C is right next to V, so understandable.
What is Kant's, bear with me now, please. What is Kant's moral philosophy?
Kant, I like Kant.
In terms of the essence of the key concern it expresses, the key vision it expresses. I think that what Kant does with his moral philosophy is take from the culture the idea that you could have an ultimately just world.
It's gonna be, let's see, today is Sunday, it's gonna be Wednesday.
And he intensifies that idea and systematizes it on a level of extraordinary architectonic splendor. Spits it back out into the culture. And because he systematizes that idea in such an extraordinary way, people who are animated by that idea are not going to be able to make much sense of Kant's writings.
I mean, I don't have much to comment on this guy. He just seems really smart, and I like listening to. You know, his voice is very calming. I don't know.
The moral philosophy, and they dip into them, unless they're a professional philosopher. So, what do I say about you in that case? Are you following Kant? Are you significantly influenced by Kant? No, I don't think I will say that. Even though there's certainly various kinds of stuff swimming in you that is also swimming in the culture.
In Kant,
that
yeah.
Kant also engaged with and absorbed and spat back out into the culture. So you're certainly going to see echoes of that kind, but I am compelled to say that roughly people like Pawlowski, people like Martynov are correct in saying that Ilin's intellectual influence
on Putin is like none.
Ilin's
It's like non-existent.
Implementation of Putinism really
Low.
has been overstated.
Overstated.
And
There's maybe
we
some.
have got to think of that civilizational turn of Putin's in a different way. Got to think about it as a kind of a man with a trolley who's an amateur historian, an amateur thinker, suffering from isolation, enormous delusional grandiosity, and he's putting different sort of stuff into his.
Wow. Well, no. That was a lot to take in. My brain is just more tired, even more tired than it was a few minutes ago. My ass just hurts, dude. My chair. I need a new chair, dog. My ass just absolutely fucking hurts. Damn, I sound like an old person, but. I'm glad that I imagine, guys, it has to be extremely late for some of you, like 1 in the morning. I don't know. I appreciate you guys being here through your far time zones. I appreciate that. The Russian YouTuber I mentioned is NFKRC. Let's keep it for our next stream. Oh, I know him. An NFKRC. Russia. Huh. Oh, I think I've watched him. Yeah, I think I've watched him anyway, like on the algorithm. But I'll save it for the next video. It's nearly half 12. Jesus, Putin wars marketing have failed miserably. All right, guys, next stream is gonna be Wednesday. Now I'm a lot more committed. Just I'm working on some projects on my own. I'm working on a moving agency, so I've been working through the details, registering the business, starting on getting our first clients. So of course it has been pretty tiresome, and that's why I haven't been making a lot of content, right? But not only YouTube is my hobby and a passion of mine, and something since I was a kid I've been making videos, of course, like on another channel that I'm not going to tell you, but I know I always say this, and maybe I can't really promise you anything, but I'll give you a notice if for whatever reason I can't stream or make videos, but I promise I'll try to be more committed to my channel and to you guys, and I just love it. It's 1:30. Jesus Christ. I'm lucky to live in California, so I can catch these streams. Yeah, probably we have the same time zone. This is the Mexico City time zone, so it's been an incredibly interesting stream, like always. Thank you so much, Thomas. I appreciate you guys, your nice comments, your suggestions, and you got your jokes even when you roast me. That's fun. And yeah, I'm a little tired. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I've been through a whole day of work and now a stream, so I think I'm gonna have some good rest and have some dinner too. So you guys also rest. Tomorrow is Monday, so you got a lot of hard work ahead of the week. So be safe, stay fed, and have some good rest. And I'll see you Wednesday night, afternoon, right? Wednesday afternoon. So thank you guys so much. See you.